Hey everyone, welcome to the Sweet Space episode 10. And I am your host, of course, and today we have a very long-standing guest, once again, American Elephant, aka Kevin, aka Elephant Power Productions. Be sure to introduce yourself and let the audience know where they can find you. Although if you are a long-standing viewer, you're probably going to know this already. But if you're just tuning in now, Kevin, feel free to introduce yourself now.
Yeah, sure, man. Hi. Like Noah just said, I'm Kevin. That's super redundant introduction on my part. But yeah, I'm a 2D animator and I guess video essayist creator. I make videos of stuff that I want to talk about called Kev Talks, and those are available on my YouTube channel. Again, at Elephant Power Productions. Don't be fooled. The name is American Elephant, but the at is that long ass name.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's I've you can also find me on Instagram, DeviantArt, Tumblr, and Wattpad. I am basically like some variation of American Elephant or just American Elephant on all of them. The only one that's slightly different is American Elephant Insta. But other than that, like I'm super easy to find if you know where to look. And yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a break now, but I will be back to making more videos pretty soon for the
Exactly.
channel.
We actually
So,
have something planned in a few months' time, I think, if I'm not wrong.
oh yes, we do actually. Yeah, we've started talking about doing a little bit of a collaboration video for discussing a certain topic. So yeah, thank you for
Exactly.
reminding me. I would like to get back on discussing that soon, actually, because I we are
Yeah,
getting
maybe
pretty
after
close
we
to.
maybe after we finish the podcast, we can hang back and talk about that. Um, I don't
Yeah,
know if I'll have time, but hopefully.
yeah, even just like a
Anyway,
quick like 5 minute chat just to go
yeah,
over some of the
yeah,
basics of where to
absolutely.
start.
But
Anyway.
anyway, today we're going to be talking about something very niche, something very, I mean, you've probably never heard of it. Uh, Now, this bit's played out. We're talking about one of the biggest shows ever made, Stranger Things, and its conclusion.
Yes, 100%.
It is crazy how massive this show got. Let me just say that up front. Because I think even the creators had no idea that it would pop off the way it did. They were intending to make a one season long miniseries, and then it got all the views. Netflix came knocking, and they were like, all right, I guess we do have more juice in us. And then for the next 9.5 years, they made 4 more seasons, and now here we are.
Yeah.
And I
Man,
have
it's
some
I
thoughts.
yeah, I have some thoughts as well. I But yeah, I agree. To think it really has been that long now, basically. It's Christ. I still remember seeing the first tease like a trailer for season 1 in a theater. Like they advertised it in a theater.
They did?
And
Really?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I saw
maybe
a
they knew it
trailer.
would pop off more than I thought then.
Oh yeah, my first like look at Stranger Things was a trailer like seeing a movie. I don't remember which one it was, but it was definitely like summer
I
or
would be
like
curious to know. Did that happen after the show was already out and people were showing up to watch it in droves? Maybe
I
they did
don't
that.
remember. I don't remember if this was like the show is coming out this day or if it was like one of those critics are calling trailers.
It
If it
could
was a
have been that.
critics are calling. Yeah, maybe. If it was a critics are calling trailer, it would have been only in text. It would have been a straightforward trailer just showing the text. Because I remember it explained the premise very straightforwardly. So
Exactly.
it's interesting. But yeah, it's still crazy looking back. Like I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really want to watch that. And then here we are so many years later, and I'm like, wow, it's been
That
that
sure
long and it's
was.
over. That
I
sure
did
was.
indeed watch it. Oh yeah,
That's
well,
true.
the way I got into it was actually I didn't start watching until 2019. It was
Mm,
actually my dad who got us to watch it, and by us I mean myself and my brothers. I think actually just my youngest brother. I don't know. Um, Impossible to get my middle brother to hang out with us to watch TV or movies or anything. He just doesn't really do that stuff. But
mm.
um, but I definitely know it was at least the four of us. My dad would watch it, my mom would watch it, I would watch it, my youngest brother would watch it. We started right about when season 3 was coming out, or after it had just come out. And I saw season 1, and I was like, yeah, this shit's kind of fire. And then I watched season 2, and I was like, that's also pretty fire. Season 3, on first watch, I really liked season 3. Thinking about it after the fact, I have some problems with season 3. I think it is a very interesting season with a lot of like things to like about it, a lot of things not to like about it. That in and of itself could be its own little discussion. But I haven't seen season 3 in years, so I wouldn't be able to offer that much commentary on it. Then we had to wait the 3-year gap between season 3 and season 4. And that was the first time I actually had to wait a gap in between seasons, because I'd binged the entire series up until season 3, and then through season 3, around the time season 3 had come out. And then 3 years later, I waited for season 4. I watched season 4. I thought season 4 was overall pretty good. Again, I also have problems with season 4. I also think it is retroactively a little bit weaker because of what season 5 turned out to be. But I would still say there's a lot of good stuff in that season. And I think there's a lot of value in it. But I mean, yeah, to go on from there, I then spent the next 3 years waiting for the final season. And then a month after that, after the first half of the season to come out. And then a few days after that, after the second half. And then we actually went to see the final episode in theaters. As in, my dad actually ordered tickets. My dad actually ordered tickets well in advance, thinking that it would all be sold out, and it was only playing on that one day. So my dad bought like a shit ton of like tickets in fucking like Scarborough, which is like a fair ways off from where I actually live. It's like actually in the city of Toronto, not just in the GTA. Because he thought that would be the only theater available, and he got it for the entire family, even my middle brother, who never actually went to go see it. So that ticket cost was completely wasted. But he was so adamant about this because he was like, it's going to be sold out entirely. Like, we have to jump on this immediately. So he did. I didn't really have a say in whether I would be going to pay to see it, but oh yeah, that's fine. I never really had a say in whether I wanted to go and see it on the big screen, but like, Dad had already paid for everything. I don't think we could refund it. I was like, okay, you know what? Sure, let's just do this. Never done anything like this before. The money has already been spent. I might as well. So I went with my mom. I went with my dad. I went with my youngest brother, just like old times. And we went and we saw the final episode in theaters. And I think the final episode was... I don't think it was necessarily bad. I don't think it was terrible. A lot of people have been saying it's garbage. I don't really agree with that. I think it's fine. I also don't think it's particularly good, though. And that's going to be like the crux of this discussion. I think there are elements of the finale that I thought were pretty good and like satisfying. And then elements of it where I was like, I feel like I needed more. Like almost 10 years of build up throughout the show, and this is what we get. It's like, I would say the finale was kind of disappointing. I don't think it was by any means a terrible finale, but I do feel a bit disappointed with the way that it played out, and that's also an overall feeling with the whole season, actually. But I'm going to get into that as we go on and kind of go through it. I don't just want this to be like a criticism video of Season 5. There are things in Season 5 I liked as well. And I also just want to reflect on like how this show got here and what the journey has been like. Because at the end of the day, I'm taking this in stride. I didn't love the finale, so what? Okay, like, the early seasons are fairly self-contained. They're always going to exist. I can go back and rewatch them whenever. I'm not one of the people who's like, the finale wasn't what I wanted and it's ruined my life. No, I'm keeping my head held high. I'm moving on. I'm finding other things. And I'm still engaging with the parts of the show that I look back on fondly. And if nothing else, I'm just glad that it's been around because I've just been so inspired by like the story and the characters. Um, and I've just really enjoyed what we've had. Even if like there's been parts that I don't like, some parts I really don't like it's been an experience and I'm grateful to that. I'm glad that the show exists. I'm just going to say that. I really am. So that's my ultimate takeaway. I don't want this to be a super negative podcast. Not by any means. I don't think you want that either, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I'm basically in agreement. I think season 5, just to give my quick overall thoughts on it, I did like it. I will say I did like the season overall. I enjoyed it as I was watching
I
it. There
enjoyed
were,
it
like you said,
as I was watching it too, yeah. Um,
there were some great
but that's
there were
most
some
of
great
everything I watch.
moments. There were some weaker moments that I took issue with, or things where I was like, okay, what? I don't like. I will say, in terms of, again, this is tough for me, right? Because Stranger Things is a funny series for me because I've enjoyed every season, but I haven't rewatched any of them in full in a while. Like most of the time, I like watch the season and then
Well,
I
they're
just
dense. They're dense seasons. That's the thing. Like
yeah.
some of them have
I
like stupid long episodes. Season four's finale is like a whole ass movie. It's longer than the series finale. I think it's like 2.5
Damn, I forgot
hours.
about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's I will say, by comparison, I this is interesting. I feel like I found season 4 more satisfying, if that makes sense. Like
Oh,
I don't know,
easily. It
maybe I
makes
had
perfect
slightly
sense.
lower maybe I had slightly lowered expectations compared to season 3, but season 4 really, I remember it catching me off guard with how invested I was in it and how good I thought a lot of it was, and it gave me some of my favorite moments in the entire show, from like
Yeah,
acting,
season 4
directing,
is
writing
incredibly
standpoints.
interesting. Um I have my
It's
problems with it, but it does have like a lot of good shit in it. That's worth like
Yeah,
glazing.
and I guess, but I will say, yeah, I agree. I don't want this whole thing to just be criticizing season 5. I do like a lot of it. It's just, like, in my opinion, it's kind of like that thing where when something is so good that the flaws, even if they're tiny, you just notice them because everything else kind of works. I don't think this is quite
Right.
to that level. I
This
don't
is
think this
to
is
an
something.
extent also what a lot of people I think have with Arcane season 2. Because in my
Mhm.
opinion, Arcane season 2 is like great. I think that's a great
Yeah,
season of television. I think in any other show, not a lot of people would be like shitting on it the way some people have been shitting on it. But the only problem is it's a follow up to Arcane season 1, which is like genuinely like 10 out of 10 like peak. So like when
yeah,
it's not quite as good, people are going to notice that and it's going to feel worse in their head. So
yeah.
just off the cuff, I think there's like a chance that I'm feeling a lot of that with Stranger Things season 5, where like some of the things I say in order to criticize it might be a bit exaggerated. It's like the opposite of rose tinted glasses. Um, so like I do want people to take what I say during these podcasts with an appropriate grain of salt because I'm always looking at it with biases, with emotional connections. I am not thinking logically. I don't think you can think totally logically when talking about media because you're going to have emotional investment in it. And I don't think that's a problem necessarily. I just want to be open about that and transparent about the fact that I am not a perfectly unbiased, like judge of what's going on and what the writing is, you know?
Right. Yeah. Same here. And I agree with you, especially on like the Arcane comparison, 100%. Arcane season 2, I think it's fantastic. At least from my fluctuating standards, of course. But I do agree that, yes, by comparison, for me, the big thing holding back Arcane season 2 is that it's less focused compared to season 1. Not to turn this into an
Oh,
Arcane
absolutely, yeah.
discussion, but by comparison, Arcane season two's areas of focus were much more scattered and not as well developed. And to be fair, I've heard that apparently they had some time cut down a little. Like like the people working on the show wanted more time, but they weren't given it. Probably not as much as the first season. So for what they put out, I think they did an amazing job. But I do agree that yes, it's not quite as polished as season 1 in terms of story focus. And Stranger Things, I, I, not- I don't even know what segue I was trying to do there. I'm just trying to get back on topic to keep
Yeah,
myself
no,
from
it's okay.
rambling because we've got so much to discuss.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Stranger Things is actually a more drastic example of that. I still don't think it's like full on like terrible. I do think Stranger Things season 5 has like very noticeable weaknesses compared to other seasons. And I think one of the biggest ones is just the writing. I'm not going to argue that Stranger Things season 5 is like horribly written or anything. Even though there are like
yeah,
weird inconsistencies and like plot holes, I could totally make like an hours long YouTube video, like complaining about how like Vecna forgot the car keys, like Gaming Magic 12, whatever, about like Toy Story 4. I could totally do all
right.
that, and I am gonna point out a couple that I think are particularly funny, but like that's not really like how I don't particularly like engaging with art that way, where I'm just like listing off like a bunch of plot holes and like, um, because the truth is, most people ignore plot holes when everything else about a show is particularly strong. Like if there's really good character writing, if there's like really good like action, really good comedy, like plot holes are kind of some of the last things that people care about. Um, and contrivances can kind of be the same. Not always the same. There are moments where like plot holes or contrivances do like destroy like the emotional value of a story. But a lot of little
Mhm.
plot holes exist in a lot of things that people think are great. And they get away with it because they just max out everything else and like people don't really notice. And I don't think they have to. I don't think it's that important. The overall structure of the story can be maintained in numerous different ways. And yeah, I mean, getting rid of plot holes is one way to do it, but it's not the only way. So I don't want to complain about plot holes. That being said, the writing in general of Stranger Things season 5 is a noticeable step down from the other seasons. And I don't know how to explain it exactly, because there are still really good like moments and scenes that really shine. Um, Even like with some of the same like luster that they had in the early seasons. But it just feels like the collective tissue, or the connective tissue, I should say. It just feels like the connective tissue isn't really there to the same degree. Um, and
Yeah.
it's all very awkwardly structured and paced in ways that are also very difficult to explain. Um, I'm kind of losing my train of thought just trying to think about it, but like the writing just feels very off in Stranger Things season 5. You
Mhm.
especially get like the repeats of moments where like people will be like discussing their plans. And they have to discuss their plans like 5 times before you're just so that you can be sure, you've actually heard the plan. Um,
Yeah.
like, and they have like 10 different scenes of someone being like, oh, well, this is Vecna, and this is the Upside Down. And they point to like random objects. I also find it really awkward how it feels like in season 5, the writers are trying to force everyone to have a line in every scene. And it constantly cuts between all these different characters, some of whom have nothing actually relevant to add or say, but they're just there because they're part of the ensemble now, and they have to be given
Right.
a line for one reason or another. It's very bizarre, and it very much feels. It's definitely like Netflix second screen watching Coded, where like they're counting on maybe there being people on their phones, not paying full
Yeah.
attention to the story, or the characters or the dialogue. So they have to have characters restate certain things that are important, so that like you can be sure that you're getting everything you need to get. Um, Even though there are still things that are left confusing in season 5, so they're not even really succeeding with that. But that seems to be the intent behind why it's structured so weird. Um,
Right.
and there are just moments where the dialogue feels incredibly stilted and unnatural. Like,
Mm.
for example, the one bit where like Dustin gets confronted by like I forget the bully's name, Andy, in the hall, and then like Lucas and Mike show up and they start rattling off insults. It's like that dialogue does not feel natural. Like, there's quirky dialogue in Stranger Things, and there always has been, but there's a certain like oomph to it and like a certain finesse to it that just isn't there in some scenes like that, and it's very bizarre. again, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like the quality of the writing generally went down. And I don't know what happened. I'm gonna sound a bit like an
Yeah.
asshole here because I just remember when the WGA strike happened. I heard news that Stranger Things season 5 would be pausing until the strike finished. And then I heard news that Andor season 2 would be going ahead through the strike. And I had some concerns about Andor season 2. I am like the biggest Andor glazer in the world, by the way. Let me know if you want a podcast about that, because I could yap about Andor for like hours and hours on end. Um, but I had concerns back then about Andor season 2 because, writing during a strike or like continuing the show during a strike, like you might have some awkward editing or awkward like writing because you don't have writers on screen or on set, I mean. Um, I was concerned about that. With Stranger Things season 5, I was less concerned because, well, they're pausing. So, how is it that Stranger Things season 5 has the weaker writing by like a mile?
It, yeah, it just God, could
It's
you
a bit
imagine if this got
surprising.
attention? Yeah, it'd be so funny if this got the attention of like certain obnoxious Stranger Things haters who are like, well, why is Andor better? Well, it's because Tony Gilroy or this or that or whoever had a plan or
Oh
this and
yeah,
that. And
I'm not trying to compare these two shows. I mean, I know I just did. I'm not trying to like say it's a fair comparison because they're two completely different shows with like completely different audiences and priorities. I get that. It's just kind of funny that like one of them went forward during the strike and still had the better writing by like a country mile.
yeah, it's
I
it's
have to
interesting how
assume that
that
the writing was already wrapped up by the time they went forward with it. That's the only way it makes
right.
sense to me.
This is going to be a wild comparison, but speaking of writer strikes, this reminds me of how like the first writer strike from the or the other writer strike from the late 2000s, two pieces of media that I know were made around that time. One of them was Transformers Revenge of the
Oh
Fallen,
yeah.
which is considered one of the worst sequels of all time. If not for Age of Extinction and The Last Night, it would still easily be considered the worst Transformers film. And then, but at the same time, now granted, I don't know how heavily it was affected by this, but I do know that there was some changes going on behind the scenes. And I know that Power Rangers Jungle Fury was written around the time of the writer's strike.
Oh, that's funny. I
And
thought you
that,
were going to mention Quantum of Solace, which is the
oh,
James Bond movie. That one took a massive hit, especially
hmm,
leading off the like critical acclaim that like Casino Royale had gotten as the first Daniel Craig Bond movie. Quantum of
uh,
Solace got butt fucked by the got butt fucked by the writer's strike. That took a
well, yeah,
bad hit.
I just find it so funny in comparison because like Power Rangers and Transformers, both big franchises for kids. You have the Transformers billion-dollar movie following up a decently received first film, and it just is considered one of the worst sequels ever despite its financial success, versus Power Rangers Jungle Fury, which at the time people fucking hated it. And there's still a lot of people that do hate Jungle Fury. There are some diehard Jungle Fury haters every now and then, but equally mighty in the years since then, there have been people like me who consider it not only one of the best seasons of Power Rangers, but their favorite season. So I find it so funny how those kinds of things still happen. It really just showcases that circumstances do not automatically correlate to quality. But at the
No,
same time, it is
absolutely not.
interesting how, yeah, we have these two franchises, both of which correct me if I'm wrong. Andor season 2 finished last year, right? It wasn't 2023, it was 2024.
Well, last year would be 2025. That's a bit of a
Oh,
mind fuck,
five,
but
five, yeah. God, I still
you're
feel like
right.
I'm
I
in
think
2025.
2024 was when they wrapped it up. Well, before
Okay,
post
yeah. So we
production,
have two.
anyway.
Okay, okay. I thought they wrapped up the same year. My bad. The Star Wars releases have been so weird. I keep forgetting which shows come out when. Like you ask me to name every MCU project in Phase 4, I'll threaten to stab you, but I'll also be like, "Oh yeah, I know what order they came out in." Versus like Star Wars, I'm just not as good with it. I don't know why.
I
But
honestly
anyway,
forgot that The Mandalorian and Grogu was even coming out until I saw a trailer for it when we went to go to Avatar.
I
my
I
dad
keep
and I.
forgetting it's coming out, and I say this as somebody who's regularly in a group chat with people who are bigger Star Wars fans than I'll ever be. Like, it's so
This is a side
weird.
note. Mandalorian and Grogu feels like the most placeholder title you could possibly have.
I kind of agree. Yeah,
It's not
like it's
necessarily bad. It just feels like a placeholder. Like they couldn't come up with a better title, so they're just using that as like a working title. But it's the actual
right.
movie. Like
Yeah,
I don't think they're
it
going to change it now that it's out there.
for sure. I mean, hey, they could change it. We changed from Kang Dynasty to Doomsday for the next Avengers, so it's not entirely impossible, but yeah, it does feel like a placeholder now that I think about it. I do agree with that.
Yeah,
But yeah, with Stranger Things, yeah, I agree. I don't want this to be like a hate session. We did enjoy ourselves. We just have our own criticisms with it.
that's right.
But I will say I do kind of like that the reaction is a little mixed this time because I think it means that look, I'm sure there's some like with most of this stuff. I'm sure there's some haters out there that are completely mischaracterizing stuff in this season that people think is genuinely good. But I do think because of the broader negative or more critical feedback, it at least allows a sense of like, okay, we can shit talk a little out of love without getting hounded by like certain defenders or something or
Exactly.
it
We
being
can shit talk a little, and that's important because like we're sitting here as people who like the show a lot, and wanted it to
yeah.
be the best it could be. And I don't really feel like it accomplished that in the end, but like it doesn't mean I love like the show any less or have any less attachment to it.
Oh
There's
yeah.
some things that I'm not happy about, but like at the end of the day, like we went on this journey and it was a journey. Even if the destination wasn't ideal, like that doesn't necessarily erase everything else. Like I said, season 1 and 2 are fairly insular, and you could easily rewatch those and pretend the other seasons don't exist. If you hate everything after season 2, which I don't, but I do have problems with it, it you know, um not that I don't have problems with season 2 as well. I just don't think they're quite as glaring. Um but you can pretend that those are the only 2 seasons of the show. And you can ignore the other 3 if you really are like that gung ho about it. Like, be my fucking
True.
guest.
Yeah. I agree.
And
But
those
yeah,
early
so
seasons are always going to be there. I think that's important.
exactly. I guess to continue on, yeah, so discussing the writing a little bit more. Did you have a specific area of focus you wanted to build off of, or?
I mean, I tried to think of one, but like it's really hard to like get into specifics of what I mean. There's just something awkward and stilted about the way it's written. The connective tissue isn't really there as much as it was in the previous seasons. It feels like important details have been left out. I would say it feels underwritten. That would be a
Hmm.
word I would use. Uh, would you agree with that?
I think I can agree with that. Yeah, there's parts of the show where I think it is cooking and working, but there is also this sense of like, it's just not as there's not
Yeah,
enough punch
part of
to
it
it
does
compared.
feel like it is unrefined, like it's a first draft. I think especially the finale is like a great example of that, and we can get into the finale right now. Um,
Hmm.
the final battle with the Mind Flayer and Vecna would be like my biggest like that would be like the biggest thing where I'm like, yeah, this is undercooked because that battle was over in like let me just preface this. Spoiler warning. From beyond this point.
Oh
Spoiler
yeah.
fucking warning. You probably knew that before you clicked on this, but just in case you didn't know, spoiler warning. So,
Right.
with that being said, the final Mind Flayer battle with like the big Mind Flayer meat spider and Vecna as well, connected via the hive mind. That lasted like I don't know how long exactly, but it could not have been longer than like 5 to 10 minutes. And I was kind of shocked in the theater at how short it was and how kind of nothing the whole battle was as well. Like it was cool seeing them like use all these objects against the Mind Flayer. Like you got Nancy being the badass with her gun. You got Lucas bringing back the slingshot from the very first like season. And like slingshotting the mind flayer. You got like Steve and Dustin going under. Like these are all parts of the fight that are very cool, and I do like them in concept and partially in execution as well. And then you have Elle going into the mind flayer and confronting Vecna directly. That was cool, even though I don't really like how it devolved into just like force pushing over and over again. Um,
Hmm.
but like all that stuff's cool. Like that's a great first part to the fight. Then you have Elle, force pushing and whatever, and then like stabbing Vecna with the fucking like tree branch or whatever it was. Like that is a really good first stage to a final battle. I'm gonna clarify this and emphasize this. A very good first stage. After this is when things are supposed to get really bad for the protagonists, and like things are supposed to be like kicked up a notch. When it comes to final battles, like there should be a massive environmental hazard. The mind flayer should start like freaking out and like seriously putting people in danger. Um, but that's it. That's just the whole battle. Vecna does like survive and move a little bit, and then Joyce just bludgeons him to death, which is awesome, by the way. I think it's great that she got to do that. But like that could have been at the end of a much longer battle.
Yeah, for sure. I think and also I brought this up when we were discussing it on Discord, but another thing for me as well that felt a little off by the finale, for me I think for me what especially kind of bugs me about Stranger Things season 5 compared to the other seasons is that it's just not as scary anymore. Like the first
Oh,
two seasons had
absolutely.
really good scary sequences, and then seasons 3 and 4 I don't think they're as good, but I at least remember like there was always a good horror edge to those other seasons. Like season 3 at least had like people like fucking their bodies like decombusting into slop to turn into like the meat puppet of the mind flayer. Like some of those were kids, so that's really fucked up. And then
Yeah.
season 4 had all the like season 4 almost felt like a slasher movie at times with Vecna doing or like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie with like
Well, that
Vecna
was
getting
definitely
inside
part of
people's
the
heads.
inspiration. Yeah.
And actually, yeah, it probably was because fucking Freddy Krueger's actor was in that season. He was the guy in prison with like the war flashbacks. I forget his
Oh,
name.
that was Victor
Um,
Creel.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
damn! I
the
did not know that was him. Okay.
yeah, I didn't know either until I like heard it in a video.
Sorry, Victor
But
Creel, the
yeah,
character, was him. Not Victor Creel is not the name of the actor. My bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The way
But
I
with
worded that was pretty confusing, but whatever.
it's all good. But yeah, with season 5, the thing that I think like held back the final battle for me was just we spent so much time in the upside down that it just kind of lost its fear factor for me. Like I like exploring the upside down. I think it's interesting, but when you're walking around in there and everything's a-okay, it didn't feel like previous seasons where the threat was always present. It just felt like we can just walk around and breathe in toxic spores and it's fine.
I'm
I
so
maybe
I'm actually pissed about the spores. I'm not pissed about a lot, but the spores ticks me off because that was such a present thing in the first like 2 seasons of the Upside Down. I don't think they really went into the Upside Down much in the third season. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, in the fourth season, I think they also kind of dropped the spores, but at least they were in the Upside Down for more limited periods of time, and there was still like threats in terms of like the bats that killed Eddie, for example. Like the Upside Down still very much had aura in season four, and it feels like just you know the world that we already walk through and traverse in just fine, except dark and like there's a bit of
right.
lightning and thunder. Like,
Yeah, honestly, it's interesting. I was more scared of like in terms of location, I was more scared of Vecna's mindscape because at least there was this
oh
air of
yeah,
like, okay, this is
Camazotz was
safe.
like conceptually terrifying.
For sure. It like the concept was interesting that it had a fake feel to it that made everything feel off. And I find that so interesting because like the whole Camazotz stuff, it proves that like, okay, yeah, Stranger Things can do like daytime horror and it can work. It can be interesting. But when we get to the final battle in the right side up or whatever we're calling it, the
The
sunny,
Abyss.
rocky the abyss, yeah, the sunset
Yeah.
rocky landscape, it's just it just doesn't do it for me. Like I just don't feel the fear of any of that, and it just doesn't. Like the final battle, it felt more like I was in a superhero or an alien movie, which is fun. Not like Alien the franchise, but just a general outer space sci-fi film. And that's fine. I do like the action elements of Stranger Things. I like when they can do the badass moments. It's one of the reasons I love the climax of season 4, but it's at least but even then in season 4 there was still like a lot of risk and fear factor stuff going on. There was a intensity to it. And
Yeah.
with this, I was like, okay, yeah, that like I'm fine with this, but I wasn't in love with it. I wasn't like, oh, this is the best
Yeah.
thing ever. The only moment for me in the climax where I was really like, oh, the only two moments where I'm like, okay, this I really like is when Nancy is running down like the canyon and the mind flayer is like getting closer and making it collapse. Like that I did like that as a moment of intensity, like this thing just getting closer and closer and the rubble being everywhere, anything could kill her. And
Oh,
then of course
100%.
obviously,
Yeah.
but aside from that, I didn't like fully feel the terror of this thing. I agree that it felt
Vecna
just kind of.
tricking Hopper was really good, I think. That was like a highly tense
Yes,
moment.
yes, that was a good
That
moment
was
for sure.
one of the
But
standouts in the finale to me.
for sure. Though even then, I still feel like that adds to my point because that was in like a closed, secluded location. He was one of the only people there, one of the last lines of defense for L. And compare this to, yeah, again, the Abyss. It just didn't hit the same. Like you said, everything just feels kind of off. It's not
It
god
also,
awful. It's
yeah.
just weird.
Yeah, and I don't think it helps. I mean, there's another side of this coin as well, where, like, the refusal to kill off any main characters, even though the showrunners and, like, the marketing kept insisting that this was going to be, like, the darkest season ever. We're going to have a dark Christmas, guys. We're taking off our Weenie Hut Jr. gloves. We're going to put these characters through the ringer. And then what happened? Like, Steve almost died a couple times, and that was really powerful the first time it happened with, like, the falling ladder in, like, volume 2 of season 5. That scene with
Right.
Dustin, like, hugging him was really good and, like, really moving. And then he almost died again, except they fucking cut to black for some reason. And then, like, they
Right.
cut back, and then Jonathan's just got him. I mean, that got cheers in my theater, but, like, it feels like the Duffer Brothers were hyper aware that, like, people were terrified for Steve. So they gave Steve 2 fake outs, but then never actually put him in real danger. And they never did anything in terms of, like, putting the other characters in danger. They even,
Yeah.
like, bent the story in ways that don't make much sense to keep characters out of danger. With one exception, which we will discuss later. Will, for example, was part of the hive mind with the Mind Flayer and Vecna, and then just got fucking Bluetooth disconnected somehow when Vecna died and the Mind Flayer died. And there
Yeah.
was no explanation on how, he just did. Like, he's been part of the hive mind this whole time. He's been inextricably linked to these people who, like, I mean, Vecna and the Mind Flayer. I guess the Mind Flayer is not really a person, but, like, he's been linked to Vecna. He's been linked to the Mind Flayer. He's been a crucial part of the hive mind. Absolutely insane shit happened as a result of that in, like, season 2. With, like, his body being taken over and his voice being taken over and him being used as, like, a weapon against the other, like, characters. Like, 5 seasons of that, right? 5 seasons of absolutely nothing shattering the connection between Will and the Mind Flayer and Vecna. 5 seasons of him constantly being tied to this, and then he's just not, because it's convenient for him not to be, with no
Right.
explanation whatsoever. Like, that is not raising the stakes. That's actually artificially destroying the stakes, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, Nancy was in danger a little bit during the Mind Flayer battle. Dustin almost got killed a couple times. But when I've seen repeatedly that you are not willing to take risks with your main characters, not just in this season, in all the seasons, Stranger Things loves to do this thing. Well, since season 1, I'd say. They love to do this thing where they introduce a really likable character that season and build them up to be liked and then kill them off. And it seems like a way of, like, avoiding killing any mainstay characters, even though this is a show where they're clearly willing to kill people, or putting them in any, like, real danger or giving them lasting consequences in basically any way. Um, They didn't really do that in season 4, in season 3, in season 2. Um, maybe season 2 more so because like crazy shit did happen to the characters. Like Will went through a lot, like I said. Um, but in season 5, the season where they were like specifically telling us this was going to be the darkest season ever, we were going to be left, gobsmacked. To have nothing happen, to just continue on the trend of keeping all the mainstays alive, and like even bending the story so that they can stay alive, it's a bit ridiculous, and it feels very deceptive.
If I could, yeah, if I could add to the whole like marketing aspect, now that I think about it, it kind of reminds me personally of like when the trailers for the Marvel show Echo were coming out. Like there were some TV spots that said like don't miss the most intense Marvel show ever. And I really think that set that show up for failure. Like I know Echo has like people it's not just racist grifters. Like there are people who just don't like that show and have issues with it. And it does have problems for sure. But I think that show oversold itself 100%. I think the series, like, they marketed it way too much as like the most intense one of these. The problem is this was around the time when the Marvel Netflix characters were truly entering back into the fold of the MCU, and we were getting back Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Kingpin, and now we got Jessica Jones back, so Luke Cage is probably not too far behind, and maybe even Iron Fist. And those Netflix shows, they were R rated. They were allowed to get away with shit you'd never see in an MCU movie. Like those shows were allowed to have Punisher shoot up a hospital to get to one guy, or like Jessica Jones like accidentally come across a child sex offender and get him arrested, or like Luke Cage, that like Luke Cage, it's fun, mind you, it's in like Luke Cage was able to just have like all the black characters just say the N word casually, even though they couldn't say the F word, which makes no sense. But and they could also have like there's an entire subplot in Luke Cage season 2 of a character who's born out of some pretty effed up circumstances. And I'm not going to say how because I think it's one of the best parts of the show, but it is genuinely like depressing and real and heartbreaking when they talk about it. And not to mention again all the extreme violence in the show, characters getting their like arms cut off and heads smashed in, decapitations, violent gunshots, terrorist attacks, bombings. Like even Iron Fist, as bad as it is, it has at least one death that was genuinely distressing for me to watch. There is a death scene in that show that is genuinely like disturbing as shit and sad as hell. So it's like it's, by comparison, the Echo being like it's the most intense Marvel show ever. Having seen all the Netflix shows, I disagree. Like I think they set themselves up for failure in that regard, and this reminds me heavy of that, where it's like
Yeah.
season 4 literally had a teenager get murdered in a horrifying way in the first episode, and our
Yeah.
follow-up to that, like again, there's dark creepy moments. I don't want to make it sound like there's nothing scary in the season. I think that when it's the like for me the big moments that come to my head, one, the Demogorgons in the Wheeler household. I thought that was a great sequence with like
Oh, yeah,
Mrs. Wheeler
absolutely.
and Nancy. I think that was fantastic, and the Demogorgon looked scary. The CGI was great, and the violence and gore in that sequence was really well done. And then there's the Demodog hospital scene, which did have me genuinely on edge for these characters. It was a genuinely scary sequence of
It
two
reminded
characters.
me a lot of the big Hawkins Lab sequence with the Demodogs in season 2, which is one of my favorite parts of the whole show. So I did like it a lot for that. And
Yeah,
I did feel a little bit scared, admittedly, with the flickering lights and all that. That
right.
almost brought back the feelings of like old Stranger Things.
For me
Um,
as well, it was because it was such a vulnerable character like Max being put into that position. And I got to say, they kind of got me at first when that sequence first started,
oh,
and it
yeah.
showed the Demodogs were okay with killing soldiers. For a second, I was like, oh fuck, are they gonna have like the characters running through the hallway, and we see these things like go into hospital rooms and eat people? Like I was for a nanosecond, I was like, wait, what the fuck are they about to do here? So and mind you, they
That would
didn't
be
do that, but
so messed up, dude.
yeah, like the fact that I thought we were about to have a repeat of the military yard scene, but in that hospital. And
I do
the
get the
fact that they
impression
caught
that
that.
Vecna doesn't really like to needlessly kill people, so he just doesn't send Demogorgons to do that, or Demodogs to do that. Like, they only ever
Right.
attack the soldiers that are attacking them, or the main characters.
Right, yeah. So it's and the only times I can think of where like an innocent person was technically caught in the crossfire, they like Bob and Barb, they were either directly helping or like Barb was just a case of the Demogorgon like trying to feed. Like that was pretty much like wrong place, wrong time. So
Yeah.
I do think like again there are scary moments and ideas in the season, but by the finale, I just didn't feel that fear really. Like I was impressed by the effects on the final Mind Flayer design. I think it looked very creepy and well done with an
Oh,
incredible attention to
absolutely.
detail.
And I love
But
the
I
way it
was
presented itself too. Like just becoming like from the big fucking tree. Like that had a lot of
yeah,
aura when it just like started like walking out.
exactly. And I did like the idea behind it. And I think that at the very, I also appreciate how, one big criticism of movies and shows that have like too much CGI is that the CGI feels weightless. That's definitely not the case because of the texturing and the animation and the sound design. The Mind Flayer had weight in this season. It was a well crafted monster in that final episode. I just, I don't know, something about the lighting and the like you said, the weird storytelling. I just didn't get that same fear factor. Like in
And the
season
battle felt
4,
so fast forwarded. Like
yeah, like in season 4 I felt the tension with Vecna and even like Hop and the team fight, like even Team Russia for lack of a better term, fighting the Demogorgon. Like there was something genuinely creepy about that and intense. So it's like I don't know. It's I agree. It's just weird. That's how I'd best describe the finale. It's weird. There's a lot I like about it. There's some stuff I don't, and there's little things looking back where I'm like, wait a minute, what the? It just I don't hate it. I'm just kind of in a state of like, huh. It's
have
weird.
you
I
seen
I
some
don't
of
know.
like the Duffer Brother like interview quotes where they're like asking him questions about like what happened to certain aspects of the plot and they're like, oh, I don't know. Who knows? Like that's
Oh god.
basically their response.
Oh god, I guarantee you this is going to be the new version of the Game of Thrones writer thing, like the Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet meme.
Oh
This
god. I mean,
Oh
it's not as bad as
man.
that. It's not. The
I,
finale is
I
nowhere near that level of quality. From everything I've
right.
heard. But like there is a bit of a parallel there with like how the writers are being asked this and they're just like, "Oh, I don't know. That wasn't actually important. I know we told you guys it was, but not really."
Yeah, and to a degree, I kind of get it. Like to me, like I remember when season 2 came out. I briefly remember some people felt the Demodogs weren't as scary as the Demogorgon because there were so many of them, and maybe the CGI was a little more apparent. But I agree that yes, the character emotions should be prioritized over like the CGI action. Like that's fine, but when you have a unanswered question like this in the case of the Demodogs, it is like, yeah, I don't blame people for calling that a plot hole or like questioning the lack of them in that climax. It's
Right. I
yeah,
actually kind of forgot to mention this directly. There are no Demogorgons, no Demodogs, no bats, no actual creatures helping the Mind Flayer. Um
right.
And I think the Duffer Brothers' actual like response to that criticism was just, well, they didn't expect an attack there, so they didn't station anything there. And I'm like, they didn't expect an attack there, but that was where Vecna was. That was where the Mind Flayer was. Where else would the attack be?
Right. And also the Stranger
Like,
Things, like the main characters have been proven to be like fucking insane enough to take on the military even when some of them are kids. You're telling me like Vecna couldn't predict Hopper being insane enough to just take a fighter jet from some military base and fly it into the upside down to get up to the abyss in the sky? Like
yeah, that would
it's
be a really great scenario to have the bats in. Just saying.
exactly, it shows a lack of competence, I'd say. Honestly, I would have preferred like I frankly would have preferred if they just didn't do the like dumb Steve fake out death. Like just have the antenna go through the thing, but have the bats swarming it. Like do that. That would be intense. And then you could
Oh,
have
that would have
Dustin
been
protect
good.
Steve.
Okay.
Like have Dustin protect Steve so that he can feel like he's saving Eddie this time. Like I feel like that would have been a much more interesting approach to that while still keeping the stakes instead of just yet another Steve Harrington fake out death.
I know,
Um,
right? I mean, that actually sounds like a good implementation of the bats. Um,
and speaking of actually, yeah, speaking of the animal or like the creature design side of things with the upside down, I actually kind of wish we got some other like demo creature in this series because with each season they introduce some new again like each season had some sort of new threat like the season one had the demogorgon. It was this kind of unknown creature, very much a cryptid feel, not really Bigfoot or even like a lizard man or anything, but it was very much this otherworldly being, and its face was inspired by like carnivorous plants that open up and stuff. And it's like, okay, that's a creepy design. That's interesting. Then you have season two, which had the Demodogs, which okay, dog-like creatures that can be intense. Resident Evil has proven that. Then you have season three, which didn't really do anything new, but it at least had like the Mind Flayer possessing rats, and then the Mind Flayer itself, it had this like final meaty texture look. It looked like a giant spider, so that was something.
yeah, if I
And
may
then season
briefly
four,
detour, actually, I used to criticize the season 3 Mind Flayer a lot because I thought the aura of just being like a shadowy creature in season 2 was what kind of made it so terrifying, and I thought that becoming just a meat spider to have like a climax with was kind of a step down, and I don't totally disavow that old opinion, but thinking about how at least there was some like cool like body horror and like scary body horror associated with how the Mind Flayer like created its form in that case, like with all of like the people melting and coalescing together and almost forming an army, like that was kind of cool at least, and I'm starting to feel like perhaps I treated you too harshly,
ah,
because the season 5 Mind Flayer doesn't even have that. Like, it's more imposing, it's bigger, but that's the only thing that really separates it. And season 3
right,
Mind Flayer has the body horror aspect to it that season 5 Mind Flayer does not. So I do feel
right.
like, that fucking Thanos quote, perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Yeah, and also speaking of and yeah, with season four, then we have the fucking obviously the Demobats in addition to Vecna, and Vecna at least had like what I like is that Vecna had a different feel from the Demogorgon while still being connected. The Demogorgon had a little bit of a carnivorous plant motif because of the opening mouth, versus Vecna, he feels like he's made out of like branches and vines in certain cases. Well, okay, more so in this new season, but at least then there was like a sense of like, oh, he's like this muddy, he is the swamp in a sense versus like being one part of it. But I say this now, I feel like they really could have leaned more. Like that's the thing we got to remember. Like the Upside Down has a swamp feel to it with the texturing and the vines and the overgrowth and the spores. So I really
And the
feel like
spores.
they
Rest
could
in
have,
peace, the spores.
yeah, I feel like they could have leaned into that more. Like maybe, for example, like just thinking about, okay, American swamps, for instance, there's so many animals and biodiversity. Oh my God, dude. Imagine, so we have, Demogorgons and Demodogs on land. We have Demobats in the air. What about the water? Is there any water in the Upside Down?
Oh,
Imagine
dude.
imagine if there was like the first time we see a large body of water in the Upside Down, and there's like fucking demo fish or demo like oh my god,
The
demo
demo Loch Ness
alligator.
Monster.
The demo locked. Oh, a plesiosaur like monster would be so cool and feel
That's in
like
the
the Mind
Scottish
Flayer
Upside Down.
with the long net. Yeah, or long neck, not net. Me personally, when I think about the swamps, I jumped obviously to the Everglades. I think of all the crazy shit there. Dude, there's like Burmese pythons that are invasive to that swamp.
Burmese
Imagine if some of
pythons,
those.
where? Oh, sorry, that's an in joke.
Imagine if there was like a demo python or something, or demo snakes would feel
Fuck.
creepy
Oh
with the
my god.
vines.
I'm just saying,
Dude,
like, I'm just saying,
also we have
Bogmeach would have
demo
figured this
dogs.
out.
We have demo dogs. Why not demo cats? There is a species.
Demo
There is a
cats.
subspecies.
Oh
There is a
god.
semi-species. I'm kind of joking, but I'm also not because in Florida there is a population of like cougars, mountain lions in the Florida Everglades called Florida panthers. They are a unique subspecies that is rare but lives specifically in swamps.
Imagine there's a fucking
So
demo lion. Okay, that
Yeah, like
panther
a
idea
demo
sounds cool
panther,
too, but
a big cat. That could be genuinely creepy if they do
imagine
it
the
right.
lion, the demo lion just like leaps out and just like fucking like ganks a main character out of nowhere, just like bites off their head, and then like it just looks at the others and it's just like the lion does not concern himself with plot armor.
Yeah. God. Ooh, okay, wait. This could have been cool too. If we can't do the ocean, all right, that's fine. You want another thing that could be creepy in the skies with the bats and the mind flare? I got another idea for you. Remember one of the first jokes in season 1 when Joyce is talking to Hopper? This is Hawkins. The most insane thing that's happened here is when an owl got caught in a woman's hair. Imagine a demo owl or some
Which,
kind of
side note, that's kind of funny because it's season 4 kind of like undid that whole line where like actually Hawkins has like a
really.
bunch of like creepy lore with like this fucking serial killer guy, or whoever Henry Creel was, or
Oh
Victor
yeah,
Creel.
wait, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like season 4 kind of did change that whole like nothing ever happens in Hawkins feel in like the first season.
Mm, yeah. That said, I will say I still think like the idea of a like some kind of owl creature in the Upside Down is actually really scary. And people underestimate how dangerous owls are as predators. Like if owls could hunt humans, we would be killing those things a lot faster. Like owls
The
are
Wheelers go into
I'm
the
not
Upside
taking this.
Down, they go to the Wheeler house, and the demo owls show up, and then Mike says something like, "Damn, there's an owl in in our house."
God. I mean, hey, if any of the Stranger King kids, if anybody would be like a fan of Owl House, it'd be some of the Stranger Things kids.
Oh,
Like they'd probably
absolutely.
dig it.
I would not be surprised.
But yeah, with and I think there is also a lot of creepy potential. One thing I will say that does kind of, but one thing I will say with the demo creatures in the Upside Down, and I do like that they do this, but the thing with the demo animals or whatever we call them is that they don't have eyes. Like we don't see their faces. It's a visual distinctor to showcase like, okay, these creatures are not of our world. They don't need eyes to really see or come after us. Like the Demogorgon, we don't see its eyes. We don't see the eyes on the Demodogs or any eyes on a Mind Flayer. We only see mouths and limbs and claws and such. But an owl, I think, could have been genuinely creepy for that because owls, they have terrifying eyes. And now I don't know how this works for some species, but if you recall, like for those that don't know, there's this thing called eye shine in nature. It's when like
Oh
little
yeah.
bits of light bounce off animal eyes and reflect back, and it makes them look like they're glowing. So imagine what if for the first time we had a threat in the Upside Down where you could see its eyes. Like it would be a bit of a departure from the visual design language of the creatures, but just like you see these glowing eyes in the distance and you can't tell like what the hell is that? And if you want to tie it to the atmosphere of the Upside Down, okay, there is a species of owl where if you hit it with a certain artificial light, it's called, I believe, the Stygian owl. It's named after the river Styx. I think it's in South America. But when you hit it with a specific light or like artificial light, its eyes glow red. So you could have like an owl upside down creature whose eyes glow red and bright like the storm over the Upside Down
That
or
would
something.
have
You could have a
quite a lot of
fucking
aura. Oh yeah.
dude. Imagine if the Mothman was from the Upside Down. Because there are so many conspiracies about how the Mothman is an alien or from another dimension. That would have been kind of, and the Mothman looks more like an owl creature in a lot of depictions I've seen than an actual moth. So like, I'm not saying it'd be good or like the best written thing ever, but I am kind of like, fuck, what if the Mothman came from the Upside Down?
I
That would
think
have
the
been
Mothman
interesting.
mythos was around before Stranger Things takes place, is the thing. So that would,
Mm,
but it could easily be interpreted as the Mothman if it ever showed up. That I could see
true,
being a
yeah.
cool tie-in.
Let me actually look this up real quick. Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
I feel
Well,
very
wait.
confident in this. Like
It
cryptid mythos has
says
been along
here
for around for a long
the
time.
Mothman is let's see, reportedly seen around Point Pleasant, West Virginia from November 1966 to December 15th, 1967.
Well, you could argue then.
Okay.
Did you just say 1967?
Oh Christ. Okay.
Anyway, There are actually events in the Stranger Things timeline that go back to those years. So you could tie it in somewhere, I think.
Hmm.
But not in the
Yeah.
main, I guess not when the seasons themselves are set. It could be like a Hawkins lab, like backstory thing, or maybe something with
Right.
Vecna. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just branching. I didn't even like I probably shouldn't have even suggested Mothman because Mothman is so different from all these creatures. Mothman is seen by many people as like a harbinger of bad things that are about to happen as opposed to like a malicious monster. So it's again, I'm not saying it'd be good, but I was just running with the idea of like, okay, what if they introduce some kind of new animal threat into this world that is so unexplored as
That's another
is?
thing that I find a bit unsatisfying, actually, about like season 5. Uh, just the demystification of the Upside Down. Like, what was this like interesting ecosystem with these monsters that were introduced each season? Just kind of became, oh yeah, it's a wormhole for like a dimension that just has like a bunch of rocks and stuff. And I'm like, the idea of it being a
Yeah.
wormhole is a cool concept, but it feels like that supplanted everything else about it. Like if it was just a wormhole that happens to have like an interesting ecosystem growing inside of it, like that in and of itself is kind of a raw concept. But like none of
Yeah.
that matters because the whole thing was just driven by Vecna and the Mind Flayer. It's all just like there's nothing that's like independent really. I don't know if
Yeah.
the first Demogorgon was definitely intended to be independent back when they made that season, but I think in retrospect they've made it so that that was part of the hive mind, which I don't know how I feel about because, like you said, it would go
Yeah.
after people like Barb just to feast, and it would like act very animalistically. Um, but like regardless of the intent, like the idea of there just being like an ecosystem and different monsters in like this wormhole like place that isn't supposed to exist, like that's cool in and of itself, but that was such an underexplored aspect of it because the wormhole aspect kind of just replaced everything. um which, you know, it doesn't help that we don't even see any of the creatures that we've come to know and love in the abyss during that final battle. i mean I mean,
Yeah.
we've already criticized it for this, but yeah, I do think. I'm also gonna quickly just say, I mentioned the the Loch Ness monster, the demo Loch Ness monster, being a thing in like the Scottish version of the Upside Down, and then that made me think, what if the next monster for the Upside Down was actually just Demo Man, and it's just the fucking Demo Man from TF2, and he's just chilling there. He's completely normal. He has no connection to anything else that's going on. He just like bombs people at random because he feels like it.
That, oh my God, that's
You
actually
never
so good.
explain where he came from or like or when or why. He's just kind of there. He can breathe the
Bro,
spores.
that
None of the other characters can breathe the spores. If I was writing the show, I would never get rid of that as a thing because why? But he can do it for no explained
right.
reason.
It turns out that's the one who actually blew up the helicopter. It was Demo Man and not Murray.
That's so true. Yeah,
And
Murray
then
couldn't do anything useful, so it was actually just Demo Man.
That's why the military left. Like Demo Man attacked at the very end, and then
This is
before
canon.
finish,
It was
and then
all
before
just
finishing,
Stranger Things was all just a proxy war between blue and red.
and then right before finishing off Dr. K, he just goes, "Oh, they're gonna have to glue you back together in hell."
That's why they could get away from the military with no problem.
Exactly.
And then fucking Saxton Hale showed up and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pull some strings in the background, guys. Don't worry about that's not an Australian accent at all."
Yeah.
Howdy, mates. I'm
Saxon
gonna deal with this real quick. No need to worry about it.
Oh man.
It's also probably not a great Australian accent. I was saying
Yeah.
earlier
I'm
that
not.
Bogleach would sort all of this out with like upside down creatures, and I do genuinely think that he would. I don't think you know who that is, but like he's like a Tumblr artist who like made this he was working on this webcomic that myself and Lobato, a friend of mine, I think you know Lobato, um, we basically read this webcomic called Awful Hospital about like a woman from Earth named Fern who gets into like this
Mhm.
weird like dimensional like place that's just like a hospital with all these like kooky characters and creatures, and there's a whole ecosystem
Interesting.
there. Bogleach also has an RPG game set in the far future in like a fucked up wacky city with all these like versions of like new types of humans that have been like mutated as like the equivalent of like Dungeons and Dragons races. And he's got all these like
Yeah.
really interesting like creature designs. And I really look up to him for that. I think he's like super creative. I'm just saying,
Hmm.
Bogleach could probably do something here with the Upside Down, if they let him in the
Yeah.
cooking room. Um,
Fair. That's a
but
good
that
point.
also reminds me, at one point in Awful Hospital, there's a creature that's called the Abyssal Groper. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean because I haven't gotten to that in the actual webcomic, but Lobato says that there's a creature called the Abyssal Groper. And and when I heard that, I was like, hey, wait, that's just Vecna.
God, yeah. I mean,
That's a perfect description of Vecna. It's a bit
Right.
messed up, but it's true.
yeah, I agree. Oh man. I guess yeah, speaking of, do we want to go on to discussing the characters or do we have other stuff to go over regarding
Well, I think there's another point I want to make about like why season 5 feels the way it does. And I think this has also been like a running problem throughout the later seasons of the show, but it really crescendoed like here. And that is, I think Stranger Things has tried to just become bigger at the expense of more intimate storytelling.
Mm,
And I think that really started. I mean, there were elements of that in season 2 with like the more of the demagogues, the big Hawkins Lab showdown. That was really a step above like the Demogorgon showdown in the school in season 1. I definitely think that like seeing the success they got from the early seasons, especially season 1, the Duffer Brothers and
right.
like the producers and everyone involved there were really adamant on making the show bigger, like in scale. Like more things would happen, more aspects of the lore would be explored. Um, there would be bigger set
Yeah.
pieces. And that's fine. And that's not like inherently a bad thing because I love season 2. Um, season 3 kicked that in like into even bigger overdrive, I feel, with the introduction of like the Soviets and like the base under Starcourt Mall and like all the fucking intrigue
Yeah.
there. Um, season 4 also kicked it up a notch in its own right with like the inclusion of Vecna and having Vecna be behind a lot of the stuff in the show. And having all this like secret lore in Hawkins that was never established in the previous seasons. Season 5 is where like it goes into like maximum overdrive though, because season 5
Yeah.
is essentially Stranger Things Endgame. And I'm not saying that as an insult per se. Um, it's just watching the season, you really get the intent. You really see the intent behind it that like the creators really wanted this to be a big event, like a big
Mhm.
explosive, like almost Marvel, like superhero kind of showdown. Which is why you have this thing. In addition to the like second screen problem that I outlined earlier, it's why you have all the characters chipping in. It's why you have all these like team like rundown scenes with like the and this is Vecna and this is the Upside Down and whatnot. Um, it's why you have their like base, their little radio tower where they got everything like sorted out and they got like a whole. I mean, it follows the same beats as a lot of like superhero and general like blockbuster media. Complete with like the finale where they go and have that big final battle. It's like, I mean, that's fine and all. It's just like, it feels like they were putting all their eggs in the blockbuster basket and they were kind of neglecting to do anything like intimate or really deeply interesting with the characters. And when they did, it was in chunks. Like, you had Jonathan and Nancy going through their unproposal, realizing that they're not actually right for each other, at least not in these current circumstances. And they have like
Yeah.
a very, very nice scene. I know a lot of people were confused about the scene. I think maybe there could have been some more clarification, but I think that scene was well done in general, and the dialogue was like interesting there. I liked their little scene together, but that was one scene, and it didn't feel like we were getting built up to that. With like Steve and Dustin, or there were like crumbs of like what they were doing with Steve and Dustin, and I thought that had a nice culmination in volume 2. But again, just crumbs, right? Um,
Yeah.
we had a bit with like Mike and Holly, for example, with like Mike introducing, you know, Holly the heroic, the D&D cleric little figure to Holly and like communicating about like their life circumstances and like about Mr. Whatsit. But we don't get much follow up on that either. We don't
Yeah.
get follow up on a lot of these characters. Because, like you said, should we go into the characters? And I guess I am going into the characters here, but I'm introducing what I feel is the main reason why the characters feel so, I guess, neglected in this season. Not all of them, but a good portion of them do feel like the writers kind of don't know what to do with them, so they're just kind of like tagging along. Um, I feel like Mike is like one of the biggest offenses of this in this season, but we could get into that a bit later. I'm just saying the need to have everything feel bigger has ironically made it feel less authentic and less Stranger Things. I
Yeah.
said this the last time we talked about this as well, and I really, really, really want to be careful about the way I say this because this has strong implications. I feel like later Stranger Things has become better Riverdale. And I stress the better part because it is better. It's higher quality. The storytelling is generally stronger. The characters are more fun to watch, I think. The music, I mean, I don't know about the music. I mean, Stranger
Yeah.
Things music is top notch, but I don't know anything about Riverdale music, so I'm not going to compare. I'm
Me
just
neither.
saying, Stranger Things in like the later parts of it feel very tonally Riverdale with what's going on, but they are, I mean, they're better than Riverdale, but they still have the same energy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do kind of understand that. From what I've heard, Riverdale, like it starts out as a simple like to my knowledge, it's also based on like the fucking Archie comics,
Oh
and it
yeah, it
just kind
is.
of it starts off like simple like murder mystery stuff, but then it gets into like cults and I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it
think
just keeps
doesn't
throwing
the
in like new
finale
elements.
do like some weird ass like Jean Grey Dark Phoenix type shit with one of the characters,
The
or am
only
I
thing I
thinking of
know about the Riverdale finale is that apparently they all have like a foursome in the end.
ah, okay. Sure, why not?
It's like, I mean, maybe they should have done that in Stranger Things, resolve all the love triangles.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, with like,
Ugh.
imagine that. Like, imagine, I'm talking about like obviously the adults at this point, not like because a lot of the characters are still kids. But just imagine if that's the fucking resolution to like Jonathan, Steve, and Nancy. They just all have like a fucking threesome. The Stranger Things
Oh,
if it was
geez.
good.
Yeah, if it's Stranger Things, if it was good.
Yeah, but anyway. Um, sorry,
Back on.
I was sick for a bit, so I am still recovering from that. So I got a little bit coughs, but yeah, go ahead, you speak. I feel like I'm gonna lose my
No, I
mind.
was just wondering
If yeah, there was other stuff we wanted to go over before the characters because I know that's going to be the main, like the one of the big stretches because there's so many fucking characters in this season.
Well, I guess I just
Even
want to
just
finish up a little bit with what I was saying about like previous seasons also leading into this like bigger is better mindset that I find personally a bit flawed. Um, Starting in season 3, like you get the Soviets, and then not only do you get the Soviets again in season 4, I mean they're the people who have Hopper, and Joyce has to go all the way over to Russia with Murray, prevents her from having any meaningful interactions from people like Jonathan, or with people like Jonathan, Will, like anyone like close to her, back in Hawkins, or like back in California, you know. Um, she has to go to Russia to save Hopper because the Soviets are just in it that much. I mean, the Soviets take up uh, quite a lot of season four's runtime, and it's one big criticism I have of season four. Because if you take out the plot line with the Russians, if you take that out in season 3 and season 4, what if you just replaced the Russian military base under Starcourt Mall with an American military base, with like factions of the government like Sullivan or Dr. K, like they're working on replicating the like project with 11, the Hawkins lab work. Like, what if that's what that part of season 3 is about. It's a bit more believable that like the Americans could build a base under them all than like the Russians or the Soviets, because they're doing it on someone else's turf. In this case, the Americans will be doing it on their own turf. But imagine if that was what that part of season 3 was about. And then imagine that season 4 does not have the Russia plotline at all. That takes out so much of the runtime, which could then be used to flesh out characters in Hawkins, which was, you know, what the show was supposed to be about from the start. Like having these meaningful bonds and having these people navigate the environment of small town America in the 80s, and confront like the horrors and fears that await. And I just think like that whole thing in Russia, because it's not like we really believe that Hopper would be dead. They teased it in the marketing that he would be alive. His death scene had a very easy out for him to escape. I didn't really buy it at all personally. Even though there are parts of that that are kind of like emotionally like relevant, it's like, what did this add to the show long term? Because we're still repeating the same stuff that was used to funnel into that like sacrifice in season 3 all the way in season 5, with like Elle and Hopper's characters low-key kind of stagnating and resetting a couple times. I just feel like if the biggest example of the bigger is better mindset is going to fucking Russia for like a bunch of the runtime in season 4, and that could be cut out, and I feel like there could be more value to the show for it. I know you said that there was some like good tension with the Demogorgon stuff in Russia, and I agree. I don't know if that's good enough to justify like the wheel spinning that I view that arc as personally.
Right, and they could have totally, they could, now that you say it out loud, yeah, they totally could have focused on the American military aspect. Because going back to what we said earlier, or kind of what we talked about a little before this call started, I don't think like Stranger Things, like I don't know what level the military was working with on this show, since they've done that with stuff like Marvel movies and other big blockbusters for equipment and stuff. But the show is clearly okay with criticizing the American military and showing the horrors of our government and unethical experimentation and actions and all that. So it does kind of raise, here's what I think happened. I genuinely think what happened was the writers of the series were like, hey, this show is kind of in the aftermath of or around the Cold War. Why don't we do something Cold War related? Like, what if the Russians were up to something? I think that's what they wanted, and they just didn't know how to make it as interesting as they could have. Like, because I remember lots of moments I like from season 3. The Russians are not really part of them. Like, I remember the Russians being an obstacle, aside from like the one guy that was going after like like Joyce and Hopper, I think.
Right, Russian Terminator. He was kind of
yeah,
cool.
The Terminator dude was kind of cool, but other than that, I don't remember the Russians.
I think his
as
name was
characters.
Grigory.
Grigory, yeah. I don't remember the Russians as characters outside of him. I just remember like them being
I liked the one guy
antagonists.
who helped Hopper in season 4, Enzo, but like
Yeah.
not enough to
Fair.
justify that plot line again. Like,
Right, and
I
and
just
even if
view
I
that
remember
as like wheel spinning, you know? Like the
And even if
characters
they
are
weren't-
off doing fuck all in the Soviet Union when they could be here with other characters having meaningful conversations. Because I mean, in
Right.
my opinion, I mean, I know they embraced a bit of a bigger is better philosophy, like I've been saying, but like the show is about characters in Hawkins. Like it's about characters navigating 1980s like struggles. I mean, if you watch like, I think there's a video by Schnee that goes into this. The reason why Stranger Things is set in the 80s is not just nostalgia. There's a lot of meaning behind that choice. I
Right,
don't
yeah,
remember
and-
what exactly he said to demonstrate that, but I you know.
And also, here's my thinking as well. If the series really wanted like Hopper to be in some distant location and just have a snowy location, okay, you can do that in the United States. Like, I know global warming's a bitch right now, but
They should have
you
had
can-
Canada in there. That's why I'm
Yeah, you could do-
complaining.
Yeah, you could do fucking Canada if you
I need my
wanted. That's still-
representation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
could
put
do
gay
the-
people in your show, but you didn't put Canadians? Fuck, I'm unsubscribing from Netflix. I'm not even
Yeah, you
subscribed to
could do-
Netflix.
Yeah, you could do.
My parents
by the
are.
way, my mouth's I'm eating a snack, so I apologize if my mouth is a little muffled. But you could do like, let's say, like, honestly, I think the Russian stuff, you could have just done like a base in the Rocky Mountains, like covered in snow, that's like a black site or whatever, or something that's government mandated or something, or not
Well, you
government
could
mandated,
have.
but
I don't know if that would solve my core problem, though, which is mainly just like the characters going off to do a side quest while the main story is happening back in Hawkins. And
fair.
in my opinion, I don't really think Copper's fake out death added anything long term because
Yeah.
we just repeated the same emotional beats that have been going on since like season 2 between Hopper and Elle. Um, and I mean, we could have done something maybe more interesting with their relationship in the time that was spent having Hopper be fake dead, you know?
Yeah, and I also and on the one hand, I do kind of understand the mindset behind like, okay, we want to have unique locations because sometimes that is to a detriment of a project when it's too limited. Like two examples that come to my mind, these might sound weird, but hear me out. So one of the ones that comes to my mind, Pixar's Lightyear. That might sound like a weird comparison, but hear me out. Lightyear is a movie that basically takes place on one planet. And while it's animated and textured well, the planet itself is just not that visually interesting. It's very basic in terms of appearance. It doesn't feel like an alien world. It feels like a forest on our world for the most part, aside from like some living vines or whatever. And the now granted the movie does go to space in a few cases, but like unfortunately that was kind of to the detriment of the movie because it's a Buzz Lightyear film. You expect like, oh, space adventures and this and that, but the film was too grounded to this one location and the emotional stakes of it and the plot it went for, that it didn't hit. It didn't feel special. And I think that's why for a lot of people, myself included, Lightyear is a very I wouldn't say forgettable. I at least remember it, but it's just not that impressive. Like the animation is great, but the actual environments we've seen before. And then the other example I'm actually going to bring up is more Stranger Things adjacent since it's horror related. Is the Wolfman movie by Lee Winnell. Now I have not seen this movie, but I've heard criticisms of it. I get like I've heard the film itself is just very boring. It's got an interesting idea. Like the premise is basically a family crashes after being attacked by a werewolf on the woods, and the father is bitten. And so they're hunkered down in this one location as the father is losing himself to this animal disease or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's an interesting idea. The problem is, I think from what I've heard, again, I have not seen this movie, but from what I've heard, they either stretch it too thin or they don't do enough with it. But either way, the location in particular, watching them run back and forth between like these three little locations on the same forest clearing or farm, it just gets boring. There's not enough tension there because the location just isn't that interesting, or the
Yeah,
story
for
isn't
sure.
well written enough.
But I
So
think you can. Sorry, no, you go. You go. My bad.
I was just going to conclude and say, so like I understand the mindset of we want to get out of Hawkins and do other stuff. I can understand the fear of that, but my mindset is, okay, compare this to the Lee Winnell Wolf film. That film only had 3 locations. Stranger Things is not a farm. It like Hawkins is not one farm. It's a whole basically county in the state of Indiana. It's a town with fields and outskirts and locations and venues and places that people can interact and a
Yeah, you
mall and a
can do
pumpkin
more with
patch.
Hawkins itself.
Exactly. There's variety in just that town. You don't need to leave it behind. And if they really wanted to, they could have just done, yeah, like Americans instead of Russians. It feels like they either included the Russians element
The
just
Cold War
because.
element was already in there because the whole reason that the Hawkins lab was even doing tests on people and doing tests on Elle was because they wanted people to spy on the Soviets. So the Cold War aspect was already in the show. They just
Right.
actually added the Russians.
Yeah, for sure. And it's honestly, I don't really love the whole Soviet aspect in the show, mainly because it continues the generic stereotype I feel in a lot of movies where it's like, the Russian characters are just mostly automatically bad guys. Like it's
With the
look, I get
exception
it.
of Enzo and to an extent Alexei. Yeah.
exactly. Like
It's
me
good that
personally,
there's
I'm
at
just
least
tired of
some characters who are like breaking that mold, but like it still doesn't need to
yeah.
be in the show, is all I'm saying.
For sure. Like, believe me, I get it. Russia deserves criticism as a government. Fuck Putin. We stand with Ukraine. Don't get anything twisted. But at the same time, like, it's still also equally bad to be like, hey, everyone living in this country is a piece of shit and we should vilify the entire country because of a few god awful people. Like, it's so disingenuous. And again, I get it. There's the Cold War tension, but you kind of undermine like the whole thing with the Cold War is that it was basically it would now I'm no history expert, so maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but
Okay.
from where
Well, you
I'm
got the history
standing,
major in here with you, so I'll
okay, so
comment.
from where I'm you can educate me then. From where I'm standing, the
Well, I don't know
Cold War
everything,
was
but
the Cold War was basically just the US and Russia being incredibly sus of each other and acting like each other was the big enemy and the worst thing ever. And
yes,
maybe
that's
they did
generally
do
true.
things to and maybe and sure both countries have definitely done things absolutely that deserve ire and like a close eyes on each other. We should keep eyes on each other's countries to make sure they're not doing some shit. But this was so like America and Russia is going to be the next World War III that it just looking back again, I don't want to say it was a waste of time, but a part of me is like why were we was that fear necessary? Like did we have to be so fucking scared of each other that it had to lead into all this like communism fear mongering or
Oh
whatever?
yeah, and
It just
McCarthyism, where like people would be censored for like speaking out about things that American government had done because they were
yeah,
automatically accused of being communist sympathizers, which is basically
exactly.
which is basically the Cold War equivalent of that one fucking tweet where the guy's like, "Oh, I love waffles, so you hate pancakes?"
Yeah, it's look. What I'm trying to say is the Cold War was not cool. Can we stop like mystifying the Cold War as like this, like really like oh this is a cool era. It's not.
The
It
Cold
was
War
a
is not
bunch
an
of
aesthetic. Neither is the
yeah.
mafia.
The Cold War is not an aesthetic. It was this time period where two countries were so fucking afraid of each other that even the thought of one person from either border being in their countries was the end of the world. And it's just, look, again, America and Russia obviously deserve criticism. There are bad people running them, of course, even now. But that doesn't mean we should keep generalizing and do all this and other stuff. It's so so to me in my head I'm just like what I'm trying to say is Stranger Things didn't need the Russians. If you weren't going to bother to make them characters or do anything, like here's the thing, if you want to do the Cold War setting, fine. Why not tell a story that shows how bullshit it was? Like show the nuances of the perspectives and those and how those things get
Hey,
torn
they
down.
kind of
Like
told that story. It was called seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger Things.
right,
They didn't
yeah,
directly
they
involve any Soviets, but like the whole plot was about like Americans trying to like go to extreme lengths, like all these like American scientists and military personnel going to extreme lengths to develop this like CIA-esque program where like people could use like mind powers to spy on the Soviets, and that was portrayed as wrong. That was portrayed as too
yeah,
far because it infringes on people's
100%.
rights in order to attack other people or spy on other people. And
Yeah.
that felt like a nuanced look at the Cold War. Um, and I feel
Vers
like the later seasons kind of lost that
yeah.
because part of me is also thinking like having a whole base of like Soviets underneath of the fucking mall, like in Hawkins, that's like it
Mhm.
almost validates like the villains somewhat from the
Exactly.
early seasons because the Soviets
Yes,
really were going that far. Like they really
exactly. That's
were
kind of my
doing
point.
everything that the Americans were scared of.
Exactly. It's kind of that's basically my point of like, so by having the Russians do shit like this, what are you trying to say in this?
Obviously, I
Now,
don't think
obviously,
they're saying it's right that like that
oh
happened
yeah,
to L. It's just like it feels like that whole plot line that like the first two seasons hinge on. Uh it feels like the fact that it's full of hysteria and like fear I feel like that's really relevant because it's the
Mhm.
80s, and that was a big part of it was a big part of the times. But to
Yeah.
have that fear literally validated in the later seasons just feels counterproductive to that.
Yes, for sure.
Season 3
It's
was
been
also the season where I personally feel it kind of went from like 80s as meaning to 80s as aesthetic, which 80s as
Mhm.
aesthetic, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It's just the 80s stuff kind of started like rolling in because it was cool instead of like because
Yeah.
there's something to be said about the characters and their standing in this world in like the earlier seasons. Um,
Right.
so I think that's
And
another
like,
aspect of that.
yeah, and I'm not against like the 80s nostalgia stuff as long as you do something interesting with it. Like that's part of why Stranger Things was so fun at first and fresh because it was doing something that hadn't really been done before. And you can do like 80s stuff without it feeling like too like I do kind of agree. While I'm not gonna say it was just nostalgia pandering, I do kind of feel they leaned a bit more into the 80s stuff as a selling point of the show. Like it's so 80s, and that's part of why it's good as the marketing went on. Like I think back to other stuff that does take like some 80s and 90s inspiration or whatever, but it does it in an interesting way. Like, for example, I think the 80s, like the kind of 80s vibe that something like Thor Ragnarok had on like planets like Sakaar, where they were really leaning into the neon colors a bit more and the general energy and vibe I thought was interesting. Or like another weird example. This might just sound like me forcing my hyperfixations. I swear there is a point to this.
It's okay.
I just looked it up. Infinity Train, the cartoon I really like that I keep trying to bring attention to on my channel, even though its fan base isn't big enough or as big as it should be. I actually found out recently the creator of the show, Owen Dennis, he said the visual look of the series and the energy, it was heavily inspired by movies like Labyrinth with David Bowie. Like those kinds of weird, surreal, like 80s dreamlike films. And Infinity Train as well, it has a very synth wave soundtrack going for it. So that's very much there is an 80s energy to Stranger Things, but it's not overt. Like the influences are there, but it doesn't define the entire series. And again, I'm not saying it does for Stranger Things, but I feel like by comparison, with Infinity Train, if that show came back, which it should, I feel like they would focus on like the marketing would be we're going to tell a good story. With Stranger Things, I feel like whenever I see marketing for the show, it's always like, hey guys, here's this thing, but it's in the 80s. And it's like, cool, you're fitting the setting, but also there's more good stuff to the show than just an old aesthetic. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Again, I like the vibe of the show. I feel like I'm ripping into it. I'm really trying not to. I agree. I feel like as the show went on, the 80s aesthetic went more from like a natural backdrop to, oh, we're leaning into it a bit too much at times.
Yeah, I agree with
Maybe.
that.
I don't know.
Um, I guess now would be a great time to go into like the general characters, and what we think
It,
of the characters in this season.
it would be actually because I just remembered I actually do have somewhere to be in an hour. So I do have a responsibility to take care of. I mean, I guess you could pause the call and come back, but it would be like a 10-minute wait probably.
Oh no,
So
I think we can wrap it up by then because this has been going
oh,
pretty fast for one of our podcasts.
okay, yeah, just making sure. I have to walk my dog is what I'm trying to say. I didn't know
Oh,
why I
that's
didn't just
okay.
say that. um,
Yeah. I think we've packed a lot of punch in the discussion so far, and I think we can wrap it up here. Because I think I
sweet.
have actually addressed the main problems I have with what Stranger Things kind of ended up becoming. I guess one other
Yeah.
thing that I would briefly mention was in season 4, one of the big problems I had, that's only really halfway a problem actually, because part of this I really like. I really like the way they tied Vecna back into everything with like Hawkins' lab, and they made him one, and they
Hmm.
made him Henry Creel. I thought that was cool. I mean, I was always a big fan of Vecna in season 4. Um,
Yeah.
and in season 5, he's also got some really great moments with like Camazotz, and I mean, Jamie Campbell Bower's performance is just like top notch and creepy. But
Oh yeah.
with Vecna, I really like that he became like an all-encompassing figure in that regard, that he was like there for a lot of events, that like he has a lot of relevance, that he's one, that he's Henry. I thought that all was really cool. I like that he had like a bunch of history with Elle. I thought that was great. The problem I had with season 4, and this really does feel, I don't know if I would call this bigger equals better, perchance. Uh, but I do think it kind of took away something from like the feel of the show. I didn't like how they made it seem essentially like Vecna had created the Mind Flayer. This like
Yeah.
eldritch like being, um, and also that he had basically created the Upside Down as it is. This like
Mhm.
eldritch like being, like Lovecraftian, like almost more powerful than you could possibly imagine, like with so much aura as like a just a creature of smoke that like can just command things to do its bidding, where you don't really know its motive or like its character. It just seems like it's there to fuck around or there to expand or
Mhm.
whatnot. And I thought that was cool. I didn't love that Vecna turned out to apparently be behind that, because he's just a
Yeah.
tangible, like, human guy who you can ascribe clear emotions and motives to. And that takes away from a lot of the Eldritch horror, I think. Now, in season
Yeah.
5, they kind of backtracked on this, where, like, it's more like he bonded with the Mind Flayer, which I like that idea. I think that should have been what it was from the start. But we didn't
Yeah.
really get to do anything interesting with that anyway. And the Mind Flayer kind of got all its aura taken away from it when it was defeated so easily in the final battle anyway. So it's not like they really restored the Mind Flayer as like a deeply terrifying like eldritch threat. Um, the Vecna
Yeah.
Mind Flayer Bond thing was kind of just established as like a random drop of lore referencing, I guess, this like stage play that I keep hearing about. But like most Stranger Things fans are
Right.
not going to casually like go and check out this stage play. It feels like homework to do that, even if it's a really good
I was
stage
gonna
play.
say that's something I've heard from people. I live with people who were like watching the show and keeping up with a lot of the discourse around it. They talked about this live stage show, and I was like, what the fuck? I hadn't even heard of this
It seems
until
interesting. Apparently, that stage show is what establishes that like Vecna might actually not be the one in control. The Mind Flayer's kind of playing him, and I think that's a really interesting idea that they do basically
Mhm.
nothing with, even when they do establish it in the show. Will kind of just like info dumps to Vecna about how that's the case, based on not a lot of evidence, honestly. Like he kind of just
Mm.
comes up with that on the spot. But I'm that's a minor gripe. It's just Will kind of explains that to Vecna, and he's like, "We're not so different, you and I." It's like the good version of the fucking speech from Spider-Man 1, by Sam Raimi
Mm.
with like the Green Goblin. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, I knew Vecna was not going to have a redemption arc. That would be kind of ridiculous. But like even then, the whole idea of him being like this puppet of the Mind Flayer while bonded, even though he thinks he's the one in control, that could be such an interesting idea. Why wasn't that explored for the whole season?
Right.
It
Yeah.
feels like
It
such
feels
a
like
waste that that gets brought up and then just drop dead immediately.
yeah. I definitely feel they could have leaned more into that for sure. I actually I do want to clarify really quickly. Do so are we base so we're in the characters now, right? Like we
Yes,
can
we
use
are,
that as a
basically.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess speaking of to just give my overall thoughts on Vecna, he is still my favorite villain in the series. I do really like him. I didn't like him as much in season 4 or I liked him I didn't like him as much as I did in season 4, but I do appreciate some of the moments he gets here. I did really like his first appearance. I'll admit when I first saw some of the screenshots of Vecna, like there was like a close up headshot of him or like his upper torso and his head. When I first saw that and I saw like the vines around him, I was like, "Oh, that's what he's gonna look like." He looks so weird and chunky and off and odd. But it was a lot better in the show than I thought it was gonna be. I thought like he looked much better by the end. It really is funny when you think about it. You really have to remember, like, look past the shadows and you see Vecna's design. It is really weird. Like, in different lighting, Vecna would probably look terrible. And yet but in season 5, I felt he had a big VFX upgrade. The VFX in general were like really creepy for him. I loved the visual of the clawed root hand appearing and stretching out. I'm a big sucker for that in CGI animation when characters like distort into extended limbs and stuff. And it looked very like a natural evolution. It didn't feel like, oh, it honestly felt more like he became one with the Upside Down and with this other ecosystem, as opposed to the first season's makeup, which was impressive, but by comparison, there's a lot less detail to it than I remember there being. So yeah, I think
100%.
Vecna. I think and again, like you said, I think there's some great moments with Vecna. I love that like the flashback of seeing his first kill. Like, that was one of the few moments where I was actually like, the violence was very visceral and it caught me off guard when he bashes the guy's head in with the rock, or when we see when we see the full picture and he uses his powers for the first time and we see, like, just the hand goes forward and the guy's eyes just burst into blood. I was like, holy shit. Like, that was a whoa moment. So
That's like the season
I
the
still
Duffers claim we were going to get overall. Little
yeah,
glimpses of
so
it.
I still think overall Vecna was good. I just, yeah, I don't, I think he was one of the best parts of the show, but I agree that, yeah, there were definitely 100% flaws in his plans and things were off at certain points. Also, actually, I have to ask this. I am a tiny bit confused. I need a little memory help on this because, again, I haven't
Sure.
seen season 4 in a while. So if I'm being an idiot, please let me know. So I know Vecna wants to bring the two worlds together. He wants to create a new world. My question I need a refresher on is why. Why does he
Um,
want to make a new world?
I don't remember either, to be honest. I think
Oh
he
shit.
just noticed. I think he just wanted a world that he could be in control of. He didn't like the inherent unpredictability and chaos of the world that he lived in. Or
Hmm.
he didn't like the people in the world that he lived in. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly that he said, because I know
Yeah,
he
because
outlined his ideology there a little bit. I just don't remember exactly.
yeah, I can't quite either. Maybe there's
We
maybe the
didn't get
villain is a
any
bit.
we didn't get any elaboration on season 5 though. In season 5 about what
Mhm.
his actual motivation was. It just kind of felt like he was doing something large scale because.
Yeah, I think
And,
so.
and, and by the way, this leads me into another problem I have with season 5, which I guess we've already talked about. It just doesn't feel like Vecna's plan is doing that much until the finale, and then even then it doesn't do that much because the
Yeah.
heroes stop it pretty easily. Like in season 4, like you get that ending with like the upside down seeming to seep into Hawkins.
Hmm.
And I always got the impression that it was going to be a blood fat bath starting from day 1. I didn't think there was going to be another time skip. I thought it was just going to lead directly into an ultimate showdown that lasted a whole season, and like
Right.
everything was gonna be like cattywampus, like shit going off the rails everywhere, like Hawkins literally collapsing, like fucking armies of demogorgons and demodogs raging the city. Like maybe the military would be
Yeah.
there to try and like limit it, but it would still be like actively going on. It
Oh
feels
yeah.
like they reset Hawkins to some weird status quo in season 5, even though they could have just immediately led into something. Why?
Yeah.
Because every other season's had a time skip before this? Well, here's a thought. Just don't. How about
Yes.
just don't have a time
Seriously.
skip this time?
Yeah.
Like
I
nobody's
especially
forcing you to.
dude, this talk of time skips is giving me flashbacks to Young Justice, actually. Oh my god. Like, that show could not make a new season without a time skip to save its goddamn life. Like, season 1 ends really good and pretty good and interesting. I didn't love the overarching villain stuff, but it was fun stuff. Then season 2, it's like, I think a year later or like, okay, a year later would be one thing, but if I remember correctly, it was like, oh, what was it? Was it 5 years later? I'm trying to remember, but then like, so Young Justice season 2, you start off and it's like, okay, you have some new members. You got Beast Boy and Bumblebee and Blue Beetle. Okay, that's fun. I like that they're expanding their ranks. And it's like, Robin is Nightwing now, and I'm like, oh, okay, I would have liked to see that journey, but all right, sure, why not? But then you see some other stuff that's changed, and it's like, what? Why? You didn't need to do that. And mind you, I like Young Justice season 2, but that is still, I think, one of its biggest weaknesses, that it does this time jump that throws a lot of things off, and then the other seasons make it worse. Season 3 has another time jump, and there's all these relationships that happen off screen. Like there's this big arc with Beast Boy at one point, and they just kind of drop in one episode like, oh yeah, he went on to join this team and then they got killed. And I'm like, what? Why couldn't we see that? Why couldn't we see that story beforehand? And it felt like they were mainly doing it to just cram in DC characters. So I agree. Like, yeah, this season didn't need to immediately time skip. Honestly, I thought the first episode was going to be like, we pick up right after the end of season 4, some crazy shit goes down, and then like that's the opening, and then the first episode is establishing like a new post-apocalyptic state that Hawkins is under. And like honestly, it would have been pretty fun if we just picked up right after the end of season 4, and you just see like 11 look back and everybody's just like, we gotta go, and then everybody just runs to get supplies to like get ready to fight and just push one last stretch, but then it gets worse. Like, yeah, I agree. I feel that in hindsight, the time skip, they didn't need to do it. Like they could have just shifted focus elsewhere. And I don't think it's god awful, and I like what they did with it. It wasn't 100% necessary for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think we probably should start talking about the character. I mean, we talked about Vecna.
Yeah, we can branch into the other characters now. And
Branch.
honestly,
Holy shit! Like Vecna's branches.
yeah. Honestly, I think this will go by relatively quick, all things considered, because I I have things to say about each character. I just don't have like super strong feelings, really.
Yeah,
For the
no.
most part. Where do we want to start? I guess
Because this isn't this is
many.
not a situation where I feel like the show straight up ruined all the characters. I think the characters
Yeah,
for the most part got like a satisfying enough ending.
yeah, mostly.
Yeah, I am going to complain about a couple things, but like for the
Same
most
here.
part, I'm not bothered with how a lot of the characters ended up. That would be the biggest deciding factor in whether I like the finale or not. If the characters didn't
Hmm.
get good like endings, if the characters got bad endings, I would be way more pissed than I am. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we just want to like start listing them off, and
Sure, yeah. I guess to get her out of the way, since she's like the face of the series, what are your thoughts on 11? I'll let you go first because I'm still
in this
finishing my
season or
snare.
overall.
In this season, yeah.
I didn't really care for her, honestly. I felt like
Hmm.
everything with 11 in this season was kind of just like rehashing old conflicts she's already had with Hopper. And then anything else
Ah,
besides that was kind of just nothing. I liked when she had that dynamic with Callie again, in volume 2 and after. I liked what they did
yeah.
there. That part I thought was good. Um,
Hmm.
but overall, there just wasn't really a lot about her that stood out to me in this season. She was kind of just along for the ride, being like typical old Elle. And then at the end, her open-ended sacrifice. I don't know how I feel about that. I've been sitting on that for a while. I've heard
Hmm.
takes about how like that's a really toxic message to send, that you should like sacrifice yourself and not let yourself live a happy life. I would love to believe that Mike is right about like her still being alive, somewhere else, finding a new life for herself. But it's still
Hmm.
messed up. Like she lost basically everyone close to her by making that sacrifice either way, even if she's still alive. And I don't know if that's like the best way to end her character. I mean, I think in concept, it can be a very powerful way to end her character. But if she is dead, she's the only main character to die, and she's like one of the main characters who deserved a normal life the most. I'm not saying the other
Right.
ones don't, but that just feels backwards to me.
Yeah, and I think with
You know
yeah,
how in
with
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, everyone was so sure James Gunn was going to kill someone off because he'd killed
mhm.
someone off in like the previous installations and then he didn't, and we all breathed a sigh of relief? I think that's actually an
Yeah,
example of pretty good storytelling because at the end of the day, these characters deserve to be able to take a sigh of relief and breathe and live and move on after everything they've
right.
been through. Um, and ironically, Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of like a perpendicular image to Stranger Things in this regard with like the way it does character deaths. Not trying to
True.
compare them directly, but Guardians of the Galaxy would kill off characters like, for example, the first iteration of Groot back in the first one, and then Yondu in the second. Both of those were like important characters in their own movies. And one of them, Yondu, was a mainstay character who'd been around for more than one movie. So Guardians of the Galaxy set the precedent that characters could absolutely die. Um,
Yeah.
and like they wouldn't be afraid of killing off characters that people liked. Um, and then in the third one, so in the third one, when no one we know actually dies, like that becomes something powerful in and of itself, where we're not just relieved that no one died. We feel like deeply like happy for the characters that they're able to go on and live their lives for once. And I feel
Yeah.
like Stranger Things could have done it something like that, where they killed off like certain mainstay characters season by season. And then season 5 wanted to be the one where everyone got out unscathed and they were able to live normally after that. I would have been okay with that because at that point, we'd been primed to expect that characters could die and we would be constantly scared for the characters we've grown so attached to in their final journey. To hold
Yeah.
back then and keep them all alive, I think that would be very nice and meaningful, actually. And I would have had no problem with that. I'm not saying that season 5 had to be a bloodbath. It's just it was kind of the last chance for like Stranger Things to kill off any lasting meaningful characters, and they didn't do
Yeah.
it. So like,
Right. Yeah, sorry, did I interrupt or
no, you didn't. I was done with my point. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I
But
just
yeah,
really
I
wish they had either like actually killed some people off, like mainstays besides just L potentially, um,
mhm.
in this season, or I wish they had done that like regularly across the last seasons. And then, here's an idea. Maybe season 5 can be the one where they all get out alive. And that would be satisfying in its own right. Like how
Yeah.
Guardians did it.
For sure. And I do kind of agree with yeah, I'm sort of split on L's death. I will say I did like that they left it open to interpretation.
So
Like
did I.
leaving it
Yeah.
open. I like that choice because like even if the alive interpretation makes sense or not, my mind's when I saw like when I was watching Mike tell that story, I was like, wait, are we really about to undo this big emotional moment you had again? Like we had like look, okay, I say this as somebody who doesn't mind that Max came back, even though it did kind of create this precedent that like Stranger Things, it created this joke that like Stranger Things is too afraid to kill anybody off when Max was brought back from the dead. I say this as somebody who's okay with that mainly because I like Max's character a lot and I wanted to see more of her. I was about to be super annoyed if they like, wait, you did all that work and you're not even just gonna have her sacrifice herself. Like, enough of the fake out deaths. We've done this so many times, but
I
they
know.
didn't, and I appreciated that. I don't know. I'm give or take. Honestly, I'm fine if Elle survived and she got to live a life she wanted or whatever. That's it is what it is. I'm also okay if she sacrifices herself. It's funny because like Elle used to be my favorite character in the whole show. Like seasons 1 and 2, 11 was my favorite character. Like I have two Funko Pops of her. I can see them right now in my room. And from seasons 1 and 2, that's how much I liked this character when I was younger. And but now I'm old and it feels, or older, and it feels kind of weird that like I'm kind of indifferent to her living or dying. I can't explain why, but yeah, I don't know. I would have been either or, but I'm not in
I
love
mean,
with the
I think
decision, even though
L,
I do appreciate, yeah, even though
yeah.
I do appreciate that they just, let her stay alive.
Yeah, I
Or no,
think
not stay alive. What fucking leave it open to interpretation. I hate when
yeah.
I do this. I hate when I make a good point for like 90% of the time, and then at the very end I'm like, oh, by the way, here's this other thing that you didn't mean to say because your mouth is just talking right now.
Yeah, me all the
Uh,
time. But yeah, I mean, I think Elle was the emotional core of the series early on, and that just kind of like faded over time.
mhm.
They did some stuff with her in season 4 that could have been potentially interesting, but I don't know. In season 5, she really does feel like a care like not I, what's a good she feels like she's just along for the ride in what
Mm,
should be in part her own show.
right. Yeah, in that way of putting it, it kind of reminds me of like how like Captain America: Brave New World was criticized for like being more of a Hulk movie than a Captain America movie, and how it felt like Sam Wilson was sidelined compared to the stuff focused on President Ross. And mind you, I like Brave New World, but I do kind of agree that yeah, marketing wise at least, he was absolutely overshadowed, and it does kind of feel like they should have done more for Sam's character in that regard. But yeah, I do know what you mean. Like she's important, but I'm not sitting here like like she's the most consequential. She doesn't feel as consequential as she used to. I guess is the point.
Oh, absolutely
Which
not. And also,
which I do
a lot of her
I do
relationships with the other characters are either just like rehashed from like emotional arcs in previous seasons. Like, for example, her and Hopper. I'm not going to act like I didn't get a little bit teary eyed in like some of those conversations between them. Um,
yeah.
but like, it's still the same stuff that was being like depicted between them like 4 seasons ago. In season
Hmm.
2, that was like the crux of their relationship. In season 3, they did stuff with that again. I don't really love the way season 3 did Hopper, but that's a side tangent. Um,
Right.
but like they've been doing that over and over again for like half the show. Like it's like
Exactly.
I can only get so much out of this so many times in a row. You have to do
Mhm.
something new with her, and they just didn't. And then you take her relationship with Mike. What even was that this season? Like,
Right. It that took the biggest back seat. Like I'm glad that they at least acknowledged it in the finale before her sacrifice. But other than that, I felt it was just so overshadowed in this season. Like even season 4 at least had that big reunion after the helicopter crash. Like that had some power behind it.
I know,
But
right? Like, it's just very bizarre to me. I didn't particularly care about their relationship in the later seasons because I felt like the season 3 stuff was pretty melodramatic and didn't really need to
oh
be
yeah,
there. The season
I
4
hated
stuff wasn't as bad, but it still didn't really leave an impression on me.
yeah.
In season 5, there's nothing to leave an impression on me. There's nothing there. I
I think
genuinely could
maybe
have forgotten that they were even in a relationship before like that final
I
kiss.
I don't know how to explain this. I can't prove it, but I hope this makes sense. Can't prove it, but I genuinely, a part of me thinks that the stupid like I dumped your ass melodrama from season 3, a part of me genuinely feels like that sent ripple effects out over how I feel about their relationship. Like I
Oh yeah,
genuinely think
totally.
that it just kind of without even realizing it, it just unconsciously made me go, "The fuck are we doing?" And then I could just never shake that feeling for the rest of the show. And then we get to the end and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you guys are in a relationship." The show doesn't really want us to like you
You
remind
know,
us
it
of
was
it, but you
so
barely
underplayed that there were people who were genuinely convinced that Mike and Elle had broken up off screen and that Mike was going to get with
Mm,
Will. Which, to be fair, the marketing for that was very confusing and did lean in a specific direction. Um,
yeah.
and I'm
And
just going
I
to be
guess it's
like, it's just like, I barely even remembered that they were supposed to be in a relationship until that one scene where Elle kisses him. I was like, I got out of watching that finale and I was like, did Stranger Things just fucking invent barrier straits? Like, genuinely, that was my reaction.
wait.
Now, I think regardless of whether you ship Byler, whether you ship Maleven, I don't think you got anything out of this either way, out of this finale, out of this season in general. If you wanted to see
No.
Maleven, basically nothing happened between them. If you wanted to see Byler, obviously that didn't go anywhere with like Will's unrequited feelings and like all of the hints that were like being built up to, you know, that it might happen. Like, for example, you have Robin being like, oh, you know, they like you because of like this or that. And then Mike initiates all those things with Will, just as an example. So much stuff as well in season 4. Nikki Carrion has a really good video exploring the Byler deep dive. A lot of these things can be confirmation bias, so I don't want to like overstate this point too much. But on the other hand, there's certain hints where I'm like, there's no way they didn't put this in and want us to think something might happen. There's no way that this wasn't at least an idea in their head to like tease toward. And I don't remember any time the Duffers were like, oh yeah, we're definitely not going to do Mike and Will. They kind of left that open as a possibility the whole show, and even left little hints that teased that they might do it. Not that they would certainly happen, I don't want to overstate things, but that they might do it, that it might happen, that there is a possibility of it. That's a whole another discussion, really, the like allegations of queer baiting. I don't know if I want to have that full discussion today.
I definitely
because
don't. I'm not prepared for that.
I mean, we are both like, we're both bi, so like, we're not like, we do have a bit of a stake in this conversation, but it also just isn't the conversation I want to have right now. I think I understand
I'm gonna be self-real
where.
as well. I don't even think I'd be good at having this conversation because I wanted to mostly go into Stranger Things 5 blind, so I intentionally avoided the marketing. I saw like a trailer or two, and that was it. I barely knew anything about what was going to be in this
I'm
show
not
or
terribly
this
informed on the marketing as well, and people in the comments can feel free to just call me a fucking idiot and be like, well, actually, the Duffers did say definitely that this was not going to happen. People were just making it up on Tumblr or whatever. Like, feel free to correct me. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I will leave a little brief nugget of my opinion here. I do think it's dishonest that there were like hints and teases that this could be a thing when they had no intention of ever doing it. I don't care that they didn't end up together. That's not my thing. I'm not like super gung-ho about ships or anything, except in like rare circumstances. Like you take Lumity, for example, that's a ship I'm gung-ho about. But like, if you take any of the ships in Stranger Things, no, I mean, they're kind of just there for me.
Right.
Except Lumax. Lumax is goated.
Fair. Yeah, Lumax for sure.
But besides that, I like Robin and Vicky quite a bit too, but like that's more of a side pairing. But going back on topic, I don't particularly like how dishonest the marketing and the and like the showrunners seem to be with like how they're leaving this open as an option. It's fine that they weren't going to do it and didn't get up together, but I would have appreciated just like a giant like straight up no. Because with queer people, the thing is like we are very desperate to like grab on to any crumbs we can find because we've historically been kept out of representation for so long. So when showrunners start giving us crumbs, and they're dishonest about it and we don't get anything, like we're not happy campers about that a lot of the time. And I think, and I'm going to defend the, like the disappointment and in some cases, like the anger that is being felt by people who feel like they were cheated out of something here. Because I can empathize with that. I can put myself in those people's shoes because I'm part of that community too. And I don't appreciate being treated as if you can be disingenuous to me like that as a showrunner. Like, just come out and say you're not going to do it. The Wednesday showrunners shut down like Wednesday and Enid as a ship very early on when that started blowing up. They were like, hey, this is cool that you're doing this and we don't mind, but we're not going to do this in the show. So I just don't want you guys to get your hopes up. And I wish they had done that. If there was a time to like clear up the whole Byler thing, you could have done that in season 4 with the van scene. I know you said this to me in a past discussion. That could have been put to bed there. And maybe in season 5, you know, you spend all this season focusing on Will and having him actually do stuff again. Maybe give him a new partner. Like, you know how Robin had Vicky. Like,
Yeah.
in his new stage of self-acceptance, you can add a new character to the show and maybe have them develop into something. Because if you weren't going to do Byler, like, I feel like Will at least kind of deserved to have, like, a happy ending besides just, like, the epilogue boyfriend in the gay bar. I'm going so off topic talking about this. I said I wasn't going to have this discussion, and yet I kind of am. But
It's all good. I guess while we're here as well, if I could just knock this out super quick, because I genuinely do not have much to say about the main kid cast from all the way back in season 1 in this season, just to get my thoughts out super quick. Mike is fine. He's there. He has his moments. I don't love him, but he's there in this season. He's definitely
Mike
part of the
indeed
team.
is. That's the most you can say about
Dustin
it.
Dustin is still goated. Dustin has never let me down in any of these seasons. He's still one of my favorite characters, and he had some great moments in this season. So, yeah, Dustin, you killed it. Your finale scene at the school graduation, amazing, great, good job.
I
Love
like
it. I
that
will
scene
say,
as well. I do think it's a bit weird. They didn't really tease him, like, disagreeing with his principal until right then. And, like, in early seasons, Dustin was actually, like, a pretty good kid. Like, he was studious, like, he did his homework, like, he was a smart kid. He was well behaved for the most part. Like, I don't know if that, like, whole idea of him being, like, rebellious was, like, particularly set up well, but it was still, like, a good scene. And, like, I liked him showing off his
yeah,
personality. Like, it was good. I liked that he
right.
had a
My
connection
own
to Eddie, like, and all that,
I will
you
say
know.
I will say I do agree with some fans in the sense of like yeah, with what was I about to say? There was the one girl from season 3 that he had a relationship with over the phone, but she isn't even mentioned in this one, and
Well,
and
she's
then in
not
the
the
finale.
worst offender of characters who don't get mentioned who were important in previous seasons. Like, Dr.
Oh yeah,
Sam Owens, for example, is, like,
speak,
maybe one of the worst ones because they don't
speaking
even
of,
mention him.
I can't believe I forgot about him this entire time while watching the show. Where the fuck was Argyle? He was a really fun character in season 4. What the fuck did you do to him?
I don't
Why
really
did he
remember anything
disappear?
particularly about Argyle. Maybe I didn't really find him as fun as you did, but, like, it is
Hmm.
weird that he's
What?
not here anymore.
Yeah, they didn't even
I
mention him,
think
even though
maybe
he's.
his actor had some sort of conflict with the creative team. I don't remember what over,
Hmm.
but, like, he stepped off the show. I, I I could be talking out of my ass. I don't know if this is true. I just feel like I remember hearing this somewhere.
Yeah, well, at the very least, yeah, for the characters we do have here, yeah, Dustin, good as always. I still love Lucas. Lucas is one of my favorite characters in the show. I like the moments they gave him here. I will say a part of me has felt once or twice that season 4 and 5 focused a little bit too much on his connection to Max, and we could have explored him a little more outside of that
Yeah, I've heard
relationship.
other people say
But
that too. One of my other friends came to me about that. And I
that
agree.
said,
Lucas and
that
Max
said,
are a very good, like, couple, and have a very good dynamic. That being said, yeah, he should have had some more interesting things to do outside of that. Because you're not
right.
just your partner.
Exactly. That said, I'm still not necessarily complaining. I like those
No,
characters
it's
and I
not
love their
terrible. It's just
dynamic.
you could have done more.
Exactly. But yeah, Lucas is still one of my favorite characters, and I like that. I will say, I did like seeing him use the slingshot in the finale. Like that
Oh,
was
yeah. I
like
mean, that was a
okay,
nice callback, for sure.
that felt good. That was one of the few times where I'm like, they're calling back to something, and I'm like, okay, that struck an emotional chord with me because that was a moment that stuck with me in season 1 was like the finale stuff with that slingshot moment. That felt nice.
Lucas,
Um,
do you really think that you can take down the Mind Flayer with a slingshot? Well, I've seen stranger things.
God, yeah. Okay, yeah. I want to mention that super quick before we continue. When that finale was happening, I've said this to Noah and one other person. When that finale was happening, that epilogue, the thought entered my head, wait a minute. Are they about to have a character end the show by saying stranger things have happened? And I almost started laughing during this big emotional moment cuz internally I was like, oh my fucking god, are they about to do this? If so, go for it. It will be the dumbest thing ever, and I will love every second of it.
Yeah, not a
They
lot
did
of
not.
seconds for that line.
Yeah,
But
they
you
did
all the
not.
seconds you would love. All
Exactly,
all
but
4 of them.
every nanosecond of it, they would like they did not, but I was so
Every
like in the back of my
frame
head
of
I was
it.
like, oh my god, no way. Okay, yeah, other characters. Will. To be clear, I don't like Noah Schnapp. I don't like him. Fuck
Yeah, how
him.
dare
But
he
at the
use my
same time,
name while also not being a great person?
yeah, I don't like Noah Schnapp. I think he's a dumbass.
Everyone who
who's
shares my
like,
name should be a perfect paragon of morality. Actually,
dude, you
no.
think
In
I'm in the same
seriousness,
dude, I'm in
in
the same fucking boat.
seriousness.
Dude, I share a
Yeah,
name
go
with
ahead.
fucking Kevin Spacey. Like
Oh yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's a pain in the ass. But
Here's the
yeah,
thing. Yeah, no, being fully serious, it's
mhm.
deeply messed up that like he's never been held accountable for like the things he said, like a la Israel and like glazing like Zionism and shit. Brett Gelman is an even worse case of this, obviously. I want to mention that as well. He's the actor who plays Murray. He was at I will say, I don't want to sound like I'm defending Noah Schnapp, but at least he cushioned his language a little bit, like, and tried to seem reasonable. Brett
Yeah.
Gelman kind of just went on like a whole tirade, and I don't know if he's ever stopped. Like, he just goes on and on. Noah at least gave like a pseudo apology, even though it wasn't sufficient at all. I don't even think
Yeah.
Brett Gelman tried. Like, the dude is like strongly pro-Israel. And I mean, the whole world knows that there's like an active genocide going on. Like, that should not be like behavior that's just excused. And I'm not trying to blame like certain people on the Stranger Things team for the fact that they weren't like kicked off, because I know that this was already like moving well before like all that stuff
Yeah.
happened. And that's going to be a nightmare. People have contracts and shit. Like,
Right.
I'm certainly
And
not blaming any
obviously,
like co-stars or anything. I know one of the
course.
Duffers also said something pro-Israel once, so you get my flack
Ah.
for that. But besides that, like, I'm not blaming people on the production team. I'm not blaming actors. I'm not blaming. Well, I guess the Duffers are kind of writers as well, but like the other writers, you know? It's
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
it's a shame that Netflix didn't do anything about that.
And
Because, like,
obviously, yeah. Obviously, of course, working with those people as well doesn't automatically make you a Zionist or whatever. We're not trying to like make any sweeping statements about some of the other people. We
exactly.
like I might have said this before in another podcast. I don't or if in one it was either a podcast or one of our just calls. I don't remember, but I'll make this clear now. Me personally, I don't waste time just throwing around the word Zionist on the internet unless I have evidence. I try my best not to do that because to me, I feel like that's part of the reason I left Twitter was that I felt so many people were throwing that in wrong directions in ways that felt more like a distraction from the issues we should be addressing. And it just, like, me personally,
Well,
it
yeah,
feels like,
Twitter has a lot of problems with that. Like, for example, you got like the big, massive boycott list that had like a million companies, some of which were not credibly tied to Israel at all. And then we were forgetting
right.
about the actual recommended boycott list by the BDS movement. Like, that was the thing that Twitter did that was pretty annoying.
And
I
some
don't
of them
think
were,
Twitter. I don't think Twitter is the best avenue for social justice.
yeah,
Crucify me for that take. But Twitter is an inherently reactionary platform. And what I mean by that, I don't want to spend too much time on this side tangent. What I mean by that is
yeah,
that it rewards takes that are easy to make, don't have a lot of beef to them, don't have a lot of substance to them. It rewards you for reacting to someone else. It rewards you for being inherently combative because that sort of combativeness gets more likes and more views in the algorithm. So you're always going to be on edge if you're on Twitter and arguing with people. You're always going to assume the worst in someone. You're going to go to the worst case scenario. You're going to be encouraged by the algorithm and by the environment there to respond with aggression instead of conciliation. And sometimes aggression
right.
is very warranted, but when the entire site is constantly making you feel on edge and driving you into those patterns of behavior, it's not a good
Exactly.
vector for actually achieving social change.
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify all of that up front. Like, I don't like those. In the case of Will and Murray, like, I don't like their actors. I don't like what they're standing for regarding this stuff. And also, I also want to say there are some people who are saying, like, you should boycott Stranger Things season 5 to make a stance against these people.
Well,
If that's what
I
you,
never paid any money for it, so I don't know. My dad
yeah,
did, but that's not me.
yeah, yeah, and it's not like we're paying direct. When you have a Netflix subscription, you're not paying for one show for the most part. You're paying
No.
for
I
a
mean,
platform. Yeah,
I
so,
don't want to give
and again,
Netflix money. If it was me, if I was the only person in this household, I wouldn't be paying Netflix a subscription. I just want to be upfront about that. I would be
yeah,
using other methods of unspecified
mm-hmm,
nature, and that's not just for
yes,
Netflix. But this is a family account that I'm using to watch stuff. It's
yes,
not me who's paying. It's like members of my household.
right, yeah, same
So
here.
I
And
figure, why not just use that? Okay, like, I'm not giving them
yeah,
any money. I'm not comfortable giving them any money. But like, some other people in my house are. So like, I don't think it does much extra harm to just like go on that account, and unless maybe streaming revenue inherently is created for, I don't know how that works, honestly.
I
Um,
don't either. Streaming like numbers and how they make money off that shit is so
at the
confusing
very
because I
least,
keep
it's definitely a lot less money than it would be if I was directly paying them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
point is, I'm not trying to say like anybody who boycotted this show was an idiot who isn't going to fix anything. If that's what you wanted to do, that's totally fine. I get it. I almost didn't watch this season because of Noah Schnapp. Well, it wasn't just him. There were other factors. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of like after season 4 ended so well and I didn't see much buzz for season 5. I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch this because I liked season 4 as is and I don't need a
damn.
continuation. And then like the Noah Schnapp stuff happened and Murray's actor. I think even Millie Bobby Brown might be a Zionist as well. I don't
I
know
don't
for again.
know. I don't know if she is. Um, I did hear that she's a bit of an asshole to like other people, but I don't know if that's true. There are also apparently weird like cheating allegations about David Harbour now, so like this stuff goes like all over the place. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
true either. Like,
it's hard to tell what some of the stuff and some of the stuff pops up so fast and then just disappears like it never even happened. Like there was a brief period where
yeah.
there were briefly allegations thrown against like Tenoch Huerta, the actor for Namor in the MCU.
I
There
feel
were
like I
brief
remember that.
allegations.
Yeah.
There were like brief SA allegations against him, and I was like, whoa, 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 what the fuck? What's this? But then there were like no details afterward. It just said like someone accused him, and then nothing came of it. Like I guess they were
Yeah.
false. It's so weird.
Well,
This
I
is why I
hope so.
try
I
not to get
always hope that's the case when these come out because like I I
same.
want there to be less people who were sexually assaulted in the world.
Yes, exactly. So it's
Preferably there
I
should be no one who was.
yes, preferably. Anyway, where were we? Yeah, so all this to say,
Yes.
I don't like all this to say, fuck Zionism. I don't like those actors. That said, I begrudgingly enjoyed scenes with Will and Murray in the season. There were moments where I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this, or I think this is an interesting little bit.
It's
I
so
don't love their
frustrating. I just wanted to. Sometimes I just want to like reach into the screen and throttle the actor. Like, why do you have to be an asshole? I like your character so much.
right, exactly. Like, and I will
Your
give credit
character
though.
doesn't deserve this.
At the very least, Will and Murray fucking do something, unlike a certain other character I can think of from a certain Marvel movie that had no business being there and stirred up similar controversy. By the
Haha.
way, by the way, for those who watch my channel, I plan on making a very big video talking about Captain America Brave New World, and trust me, I have words for the character I'm thinking of. If you know the movie, you know the exact one I'm referring to. Tune in April 2027 if all goes smoothly. Um, but yeah, so I did like Will and Murray in the season, begrudgingly. I like the characters, I don't like the actors. But I do agree that they were kind of part of some of the weird writing stuff going on. There were some moments where I'm like, okay, Murray, why the fuck are you even here? Like, you've done your job, you gave them
Murray is
supplies.
very hit or miss for me in terms of comedy in general. Like, some of his lines are
Yes.
bangers, and some of his lines are just like, did you really need to say that? Like, could we not have just had like a serious moment?
Exactly.
I think Friendly Space
Um,
Ninja made a point of like how much he fucking hates Murray and thinks like every line that comes out of his mouth is annoying. I wouldn't go that far. I think he does actually have some funny lines. But in other times, I can see where he's coming from.
yeah, for sure. And then with Will, I do appreciate that they at least gave him interesting stuff to do. I like the idea of Will becoming more confident in this season. I'm not going to call him a wet blanket or anything, but like compared to the
Well, he just
previous
hasn't
seasons, I
really
like
done
that.
anything in the last two. So like,
Yeah, so I like that Will in this case has stepped up a bit and gained more confidence. I do appreciate what they tried to do. And I kind of like the idea of the character who used to be used as a vessel and a tool being like, don't you want to just go ape shit and just like be the serious guy on the team? So I did appreciate
Hundopi.
that a
I
lot.
mean, that last scene of Volume 1 where he's just aura farming, that was pretty cool. I did like that.
Yeah.
I also liked his connection with Robin, because they are the two main gay characters on the show, and having
Right.
Robin like mentor Will during a time like that. I mean, this is 1980s. This is peak AIDS epidemic, like homophobia, kind of going crazy out the wazoo back then. Not that it's still
Yeah.
not a terrible thing now, but definitely even like back then it was even worse. Um, and to find someone that you can rely on and like trust, and someone who guides you in a world that seems actively hostile to you, that you can't navigate, that you feel you can't navigate on your own. I think the lesson from Will's storyline is that you actually can, or you can at least try, but you feel that you can't. And it sometimes takes someone else to be there and inspire you and let you know that you can be brave and you can trust and you can love and you can feel, you can accept yourself. And I love that. I love that part. I genuinely did love that. I love that Robin was there for Will as like a mentor figure. Um,
Yeah.
I don't love the way that like Will ultimately came out in the end. I know people shit on that coming out scene. I don't absolutely hate it. I am very mixed on it. Like,
Mhm.
the actual dialogue of Will coming out is fine. Like, I like the reactions from like people close to him. Like, Jonathan tearing up got me tearing up a little bit, and I don't even really care about Jonathan, so that tells you something.
Yeah,
Um,
I did like him in this season. I did
yeah,
like Jonathan. He just wasn't like my favorite character. He got that great conversation with Nancy, and I did like
yeah,
that.
the
I did
unproposal scene was great.
conceptually, I did like that scene, like the melting environment. But they're still there, and now the big concern is less like being melted, but like drowning. Like that was interesting. And I will
Yeah,
say as well, back when it was just like the wall and the wormhole stuff, I did like that thing, the tension of like just this massive orb over the lab. Like, okay, what the fuck? And then like there was tension there of Dustin being like, wait, no, stop, don't do anything to it. Everybody will die, please. Like that was mostly good.
absolutely.
But so yeah, I agree with, but I do also agree that yeah, Jonathan is a character where I like him, but I sometimes I have to be reminded like, oh yeah, you were in this show, like you are
That's
a
so
character.
true. Yeah. Um, but I liked seeing him like be there for Will, and Joyce be there for Will, and the main like group be there for Will. And I liked the actual things he said during the coming out scene. I think it's a little bit weird how they keep tiptoeing around the actual word gay, considering they've had the F slur in this show, like used
Yeah.
by homophobes.
I wonder if that's a fear of backlash from people who say like, because there's conversations all the time with fiction about like how is it better to go upfront with what you're trying to say, or is it better to use subtext? For me, it's very dependent. I don't think
Yeah, it's
there's any
dependent.
problem. For me, I think it just depends. Like there are some times where I'm like, yeah, I don't need this character to say that what their sexuality is to find them endearing or awesome.
I don't know. I
That's
feel like
that's
for
another.
me, like it might have been a bit more powerful if I actually had heard Will say I am gay instead of just I don't like girls.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think there's some strength in that dialogue too, but I
oh
also
yeah, there
think yeah,
is.
it is it's like the thing I brought up earlier with the Marvel Netflix shows like so Luke Cage can have characters saying the N-word casually and but we can't say fuck. Like okay,
Yeah.
sure, whatever.
It really does feel in that scene that for everything I don't like about Noah Schnapp, he was really holding it together. Because I don't know if the
Yeah.
Duffers really knew what they were doing there. I'm not gonna lie. And this gets to my problems with the coming out scene, which are the same problems basically everyone else has already laid out. I don't like that literally everyone was there, including characters that Will does not have a connection with. Like, why the fuck does Murray need to hear, like, him coming out as
Right.
gay? Why the fuck does Callie need to hear? Callie has never even met Will before. Like,
Yes.
at least with Murray, you could infer that maybe they have some sort of, like, relationship off screen. Callie has never met Will before in her life, and vice versa. What the fuck is
Yes.
she doing there? Like, I've heard the counterpoint that, like, it's powerful to see Will come out to total strangers, but that was not the intent. Let's stop kidding ourselves. Like, they just wanted to have the whole ensemble there for an important moment.
Yeah.
And that's also very, well, it's also very, like, interesting that they chose to do that during a time when it was very, very dangerous, like, more so than it is now to come out as gay, especially in the heat of, like, the AIDS epidemic, right? Like, you would have
Right.
to find very specific people you trusted, which is why I'm saying, why wasn't it just Joyce, Jonathan, like, Mike? Obviously, it's relevant to Mike because Will liked Mike, but was in love with Mike even. But, like, and maybe even the core friend group too, but, like, besides that, who needs to hear this? Like, I
Yeah.
understand that there was a thing of, like, Vecna bearing down upon him, which, by the way, is another thing I don't really love about the coming out scene, because it does feel like Will did not have agency in deciding that for himself. Vecna kind of
Yeah.
forced it to happen. I don't hate that aspect, but it's also an aspect that makes me go, like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
The part that really annoys me about Will, though, is number one, they kind of just shrug off the hive mind thing with, like, no explanation in the finale.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, maybe coming out as gay, like, made him, like, not susceptible to Vecna anymore, but somehow.
Right.
You never
Like,
know. Um, I thought it was, I thought it was a bit lame that, like, they just gave him an epilogue boyfriend in the end at, like, a gay bar, the most stereotypical place to find a
Yeah.
gay person. Like, I don't know if you guys know this. Like, Duffers, I'm gonna sit you down. I'm gonna tell you something that'll blow your mind. Gay people, like, exist, like, outside gay bars. Like, you know, they're in, like,
Right.
society.
Yeah.
Like,
And I also feel like
you could have Will
it kind
meet,
of
like, his future boyfriend at, like, an art exhibit because, you know, he had, like, this whole thing of wanting to be an artist. I thought that would be a
right.
cool idea. I think I've seen
Yeah,
other people in YouTube comments say that. Of
and
course, I
speaking
would
of
have
like
preferred he had his boyfriend in the actual fucking show instead of just in the epilogue.
right.
But if you had to do
Yeah,
epilogue boyfriend, at least give him, like, a meaningful place to meet that person.
that's my point. I agree as well. Yeah, like I'm not against Will finding love off screen or elsewhere. Like it takes time for him to emotionally mature and get that. Like that's okay. But from an emotional connection standpoint, if we don't know that person, it's only going to do so much. And it does remind me of now, mind you, I've not seen the show I'm about to talk about, but I've heard about how the show Voltron,
I knew
Legendary
you were going to say
Defenders,
Voltron. I knew it.
did something similar where they had a gay character in the show, but then at the end of the show they just ship him with some dude. They have him not just like with some dude we've never met, like getting married with some dude we've never met. And I'm like, I mean,
There
I'm
was
happy for
also
you, but
another. There was also a fandom idea of Keith and Lance, two big characters from that show, being getting together, and then I think one of them was the one that got shipped with some random guy in the end,
yeah, it's
or
so
maybe it was
it,
this guy named Shiro. I don't fucking know. I don't know
I think it was
Voltron.
Shiro. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it was Shiro.
so no connection to Keith or Lance actually, besides I guess them being friends.
Well, yeah. Point is, they gave Will good stuff to do, but he, in a way, Will is kind of everything right and wrong with this show at once, to a certain degree.
I see it. Yeah.
There's effort put in, and there's good stuff with his character, but there's just other stuff. Even ignoring like the actor aspect, there's just so much going on with it that's like, huh? Like what are we? Okay, sure. I guess. All right.
Yeah, I know. Like, there was a
I,
lot of
and then
legitimately powerful stuff with him in this season, but it feels like they just sputtered out of giving him, like, a good ending at all.
yeah. I will say I do have to go soon, but I do want to go over the other characters as quick as we can,
Sure,
if possible.
no
Robin is
problem.
great. Love Robin. She did not let me down. I was
Yeah,
very
Robin has
entertained.
never disappointed me.
Maya Hawke is just such a charismatic actor. I love seeing her show up and stuff.
Many
And
great
this
people
was,
are saying this. One of the best actors of our generation. Maybe one of the best
yeah,
ever.
that'd be one of the few times Trump is based if he actually said that.
Trump if he was good.
Yes. Again, Steve. Steve is a lot like Mike in that, like, yeah, he's there. He has his moments.
Steve is like,
Um,
oh my god, that is a contentious take. Steve? Okay, I kind of see where you're coming from, though, because they don't really give his character a lot interesting to do in the later seasons. But Joe
Yeah.
Keery just has such a high level of charisma that I'm not
Fair.
I'm not trying to argue that Finn Wolfhard doesn't have charisma. It's just they don't really give
love
him a
Finn
lot of stuff to work with in terms of charisma in like the newer seasons. Whereas like Joe Keery just like shines in every regard, and like his bond with Dustin is like just fun to
Fair.
watch overall. But no, I kind of agree with you though.
Oh,
like he doesn't.
shit, my bad. I meant Jonathan. God damn it. I did it again. I did this on a call previously where I said Steve instead of Jonathan. Fuck, I love
That's
Steve.
good. That's
I
great.
don't know what I was thinking.
I do
Steve is
agree.
great.
I agree with
Steve
you
was
on
great.
Jonathan too. But
Steve
okay,
was great
Steve
in this
is
season.
great. But I also
Fuck.
agree. I do also agree though that his character doesn't have like a lot of like deep or like interesting stuff going on following
Yeah.
like the early seasons.
Damn it.
I don't think he has to be fun.
Fuck.
I think he's like
can't
really
believe
fun, but
I can't believe I did that twice now. I am so fucking.
oh my god, that is
okay.
so funny. Okay.
Oh god, yeah. And you know we got to keep that because it is funny, so we can't just edit
Exactly.
it out. But yeah, so
Yeah, I agree on Jonathan
to
too.
clarify, Jonathan is fine. He has his moments. Steve is great. Loved Steve. I loved his bond with Dustin. That was all good. Joe Keery, super charismatic, like you said. I'd love
You
to see him in more
accidentally
stuff.
exposed me as someone who has things to criticize about with Steve, which is gonna get me like canceled now by the Stranger Things fandom.
Yeah.
That's the
Hopper
most
is good.
controversial thing we've said.
Yeah, Hopper I did like in this season fine.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
really have
fine.
any- Yeah, I don't really have any strong feelings. I thought he had some good moments. Like you said, the tube scene was genuinely great. Like that
Oh,
was
yeah.
some good shit with
Big
his
time.
head. I really appreciated
Joyce-
the directing of that.
I think Joyce is in the same boat as well. She has some great moments with Will. She has, I mean, her bludgeoning Vecna to death was awesome, as I said. I think she deserved
Yeah.
to get the final blow there.
Mhm.
After everything
yeah,
that
I
happened
guess
to her family.
Camazot's kids. We haven't mentioned the Camazot's kids.
Oh
much.
yeah. Camazot's was
did-
really cool. I really love that conceptually, and some of the ways that like played out was some of my favorite
Yeah.
in the show.
I say this as somebody who has technically read Wrinkle of Time by way of listening to it.
So
in
have I.
homeschool,
Well, I
then
read the actual
saw
thing, but
saw the Disney movie and thought it was the most mediocre shit ever. I
yeah,
actually
that
didn't
movie
quite-
was apparently not very good. I was hoping
I
it
saw-
would be, but
Dude, I saw it in theaters after a long day out at the mall. Oh, it was so disappointing.
I never
that
got around to
stupid-
watching it because I just heard about how disappointing it was.
That stupid trailer with the Good Sweet Dreams remix really hooked me deeper than it should have. Like it was so like there were good moments, don't get me wrong. There's at least one moment where the main character and Chris Pine share like it's her dad. Like they share an emotional moment and it is genuinely well acted and I'm like, fuck, this would be so perfect in a good movie. But there is just so much like it is so weird. We talk about how many characters are just like here or we're like they're fine, they're there in this season. Fucking Calvin from Wrinkle in Time is the most there character I've ever seen in my life. Like, why are you here?
I think we can certainly say with absolute definitiveness that Calvin is.
Yes. The Virgin Wrinkle in Time Calvin, the Chad Power Rangers Ninja Steel Calvin.
So true.
I
the
don't
Chatter,
even-
Calvin and Hobbes.
The Chatter, yes, even better, Calvin and Hobbes. I should have run with that. I like Calvin and Ninja Steel. That's the better choice.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I was just gonna say
the kids in Camazotz were good. I liked the focus on
It's bizarre to give Holly so much attention after all these
Holly,
years
thank you.
at last. But I liked her in this.
Yeah, I liked Holly.
Like I thought the
I
actor did like a compelling enough job with the material she was given.
yeah, and I liked
Especially
how
for
with
her
her
age.
character, it didn't feel like she just got smart overnight. I like how that kind of energy and like the discussions she had with Max and her intelligence, it felt like it really grew over the season, and I do appreciate that because sometimes that happens where you give a character focus and it's like, oh, it feels like they're acting in a way that is smart and makes sense, but is also a little out
Yeah,
of
because
character.
Holly was
Feels a
falling
little
for the Mr. What's-It stuff, like, a lot early on, but she kind of
yeah,
clocked Vecna pretty easily,
yeah. So I
once she spent more
appreciate
time with him.
the writing there. Derek was great. Derek was a
Oh,
lot of
Derek was
fun.
awesome.
He was so entertaining.
Yeah, he had so
Dude,
many good lines.
I was on Instagram. I wasn't even searching for this, but one of the first like results when I was like typing in, I think it was looking for something else, but I typed in like SU or something. I think it was maybe Steven Universe fan art. I
And
don't
you got
remember, but I
Suck
was
My Fat One.
yes, exactly. That was such a good moment. He was so fun throughout the whole show. W
For
Derek, he was
real.
one of the best characters. Um, other characters. I
Stand
guess to
proud,
rush to
Vecna, you are strong, as he pulls Holly into the cave.
yes. Um,
Dipshit Derek
oh
is truly
God.
the most powerful character in Stranger Things.
Yes. I guess to quickly, God, am I missing? Fuck, there's so many other characters. Okay,
Yeah,
Colleen.
there's
I
such a
did like.
ridiculous. There is such a
I did.
fucking ridiculous cast in Stranger Things now with
This
all
is coming from some.
ensemble.
I feel hypocritical saying this because I want to make an animated series with a big cast, but oh my gosh, there's so many little characters here where I'm like, fuck, I forgot about you. But yeah,
Yeah.
Kali, I did like that we finally followed up on her because they
Yeah,
clearly
and
wanted to do more
I
with her.
think what they did with her was kind of interesting too, with her having this whole suicide plan and then realizing it's wrong. It's very basic character writing, don't get me wrong. It's nothing super deep or like uber compelling, but it's
Right.
good. It's solid.
Yeah, and I liked that they.
It's a
I also
fine
do
arc.
appreciate.
And I like
Yeah,
that
it's
they
a
tried with her. Like, it would be a
it's a
bit cowardly to like leave this character who got backlash back in season 2 and never do anything with her again. Well, maybe not cowardly. I
exactly.
think it would be reasonable, but like it takes some balls to go for a second try and like kind of
Yeah,
make it work.
for sure. And I also like that they didn't make her a twist villain. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know if it was.
my dad was so convinced that she was going to turn out to be helping Vecna, and I stood strong. I was like, that's not going to happen. And he ate
Yeah.
his words on that one.
Yeah, what else is there for Dr. K. You
Dr.
overstayed your
K was
welcome.
yeah, Dr. K was kind of nothing. Linda Hamilton did a good job. I liked seeing her, but like
Mhm.
there was nothing to that character. That was
Right,
just like a character who replaced Sullivan as the big military bad and then did nothing
right.
with that.
Dude,
Like
people were
was she
so
supposed to
convinced.
be she supposed to be like a new Brenner? Well, then why kill Brenner off in
Yeah.
season 4 instead of just having him stay around? I think Brenner
Yeah,
should have
like
died from the beginning, from season 1, to be honest with you. But
yeah.
like the whole thing with him is a bit confusing, even in season 4. But regardless, Dr. K has fuck all to do, and she lets the kids go and the whole cast go after some of them have like gone and killed many soldiers, interfered with the military's plans multiple times. She just lets
Yeah.
them go in the end? Why?
It's
It does
exactly.
feel
And
very incomplete from a writing perspective. And she just has
right. And
nothing like interesting to do or say. We don't really know about
yeah,
her motives. Like,
that's my big problem is that we don't get even a motive, and when we do get a motive, it feels so boring. Like when we get that bit where she's like punches the one soldier, pulls him aside, and she's like, if we had done things properly, these things would be on Soviet land and not killing Americans. I'm like, when I first heard that, I was like,
that's it.
oh, that's your motivation. That's it. Just generic
So Dr.
Cold
K
War paranoia.
So Dr. K is basically just an extension of what we already have with the Americans in the show from the start. Nothing new about her, nothing
Exactly.
particularly interesting. The only thing that is interesting, I guess, is, that Linda Hamilton puts on a charismatic performance. Or at least she puts on a solid performance, I should say. And
Yeah.
it's cool to have her because she was such like a star in like the 80s and 90s, and I love like Terminator 2 Judgment Day is one of my favorite action movies of all time, and the first Terminator ain't too shabby either. I think it's cool to have her, but like, what did she really add besides her performance?
For sure. Yeah, just not a fan of that character. And then
Speaking
guess, are
of
there-
people who killed all those soldiers and got released for no reason, Nancy. Nancy
Oh,
is one of
fuck, I
those
forgot about
characters.
Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy's one of those characters where like I do admit she hasn't really had much interesting to do for like the past couple seasons. I think they did give her somewhat of an interesting arc in season 3. With like her like overcoming struggles in the workplace. I thought that was pretty neat. And she had a lot of compelling stuff to do early on in the show as well. She kind of did just become like the badass with a gun though, and that's not bad. Like it's cool to see her like, shoot up the enemies and and be
Yeah.
cool. But like that's
me,
kind of all her
Nancy-
character is.
Yeah, to me, it kind of feels like Nancy just sort of like kind of turned into. I don't mean this in like, and I don't even mean this in like an overtly negative way. I mean this in the sense of like she is very much like a weapon on the team. She's basically a living weapon at this point with the shotgun and
which is not bad.
Dem-
It's just she was very compelling early on, and I feel like they lost that. But
sometimes
she's
like
still
that
cool.
Sometimes characters like that can really work. Like I think this is a crazy example, but I think off the top of my head, one character that kind of gives me that vibe is Black Panther in Avengers Earth, not in the movies, but Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where T'Challa doesn't really get a ton of focus episodes, but his introduction is so good and he by himself is so cool in that show that you almost don't even need a ton of development for him. T'Challa just works in that Avengers cartoon because he is so badass and well handled. He really
True.
is just like the secret weapon in a sense sometimes. Like he does a lot of he's not invulnerable, but he can kick ass, and sometimes characters will use that aspect. Like there's an episode where they fight Kang and Kang fights Hulk for a moment, and Kang is like, "Did you really think you could use your stupid blunt force or whatever to break through my technology?" And Hulk then goes like, not stupid, distraction. And then Kang turns around and Black Panther's already like zooming forward right at him from behind. So like I see the value of those characters, and I do like Nancy, but I do think that yeah, she is just kind of like the badass quote unquote final girl, kind of sort of, not really here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be so for real. I kind of hope we're done talking about characters, but then I just remembered the fucking soldier guy that 11 tortures, and they set up
We
as
don't
like
have
a
to
side
say anything
antagonist.
about him. Like, what is
He's
this?
just
It felt like there was something building up with him, and then he kind of just
Right,
didn't
like, I
do
thought he was gonna
anything.
fuck things up even further, but then he didn't, and I was just like, what was the point? What was?
Yeah, I thought he was
All right,
really
well,
going to go off the rails, or he was going to turn on Dr. K or something. But like,
Yeah,
he didn't do
all right.
anything. Like, he just got killed
Precisely.
in a scene that was
okay,
cool.
yeah,
but like,
Yeah. I will say I do have to get going. I'm a little late on this thing in my schedule. But I
there's one
basically
other
have
character who
covered
I do
everything.
want to address. I don't think we've directly addressed Max in this season. There's not too much to
Oh,
say. I think Max carries on being like one of the most compelling characters in the show from season
Yeah.
4.
Maybe that's why I didn't say much, because I just think, yeah, I agree. Max is one of the best parts. I should have brought her up earlier. But
Yeah,
yeah,
some of those
with
scenes with her and Holly and Camazotz just like really goes to show that Sadie Sink has like impeccable charisma, and the way that her character is written is also just incredibly compelling. Even by the standards of Stranger Things, which can have quite like good writing when it wants to. Like I just think her character is a real
yeah,
standout in season 4 and season 5 as well. I don't have much to
for
say in
sure.
particular about her. It's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
she's great.
Max is dope. We got some great moments to shine in this season. I really like the stuff with her and Camazotz and
I find it
overcoming
incredibly
stuff.
weird. I just remembered one last thing I want to address. I find it incredibly weird that Ted doesn't get mentioned when he's in the hospital because, like, some of the characters, that's their dad.
Oh yeah.
I know he's not like an involved dad or an emotionally connecting dad, but like it's still
Yeah, he's
relevant that
not-
he might die soon, right?
Yeah, he's not the most consequential, but at the same time, like, damn,
Just
the show really
I don't know,
forgot
drop
about
a
him.
mention that they went to go check up on dad or something. Like
Yeah, not to mention
like
Derek's
if he
parents still
dies,
being
that
tied up in
affects
that
them
barn.
even if they don't like him that much. Oh yeah, Derek's parents too. Yeah, that stuff's weird. There's a lot of holes in Stranger Things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Conformity
Alright,
Gate will fix everything, though. The secret episode that totally exists is going to come out, and it's going to blow everyone away. I totally believe
On that
this.
note,
I endorse
do
this
have to
theory
get-
entirely. No, I don't.
Yeah. On that note, I do have to get going, but this has been very fun. I did like talking about this show. So yeah, overall, I did like Stranger Things season 5. Could have been better, but I'm thankful for the show I got.
Absolutely.
And I do have to go now because my dog will not leave me alone.
Do not worry. I will hold down the fort, and I will do the outro.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Take your leave.
I'll see you on the next. I'll see you on the next one of these. Bye. You
Bye.
already heard my follows at the beginning. Later.
And thanks for watching Sweet Space episode 10. And you know what? Have you seen Stranger Things? No, that's a bad finisher. I'm sorry for that. I could have done better. I've really disappointed you. It's actually kind of a clever metaphor for how parts of Stranger Things season 5 disappointed me. So if you think about it, it's actually kind of genius. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. And thanks to Kevin for being here. Now goodbye for real.